Well, the build-up is continuing here at the Seat Unique Stadium. Welcome to a sunny Bristol, where Gloucestershire take on Northants in the Vitality Blast. Not many of the crowd are actually looking at the playing area at the moment, because the England football game is still in progress. England currently leading by 2-1. We will confirm that full-time score when it occurs. But here, in terms of the Vitality Blast, it's Gloucestershire against Northants at the central group, right at the top of the central group. The leaders come here with 7 wins out of 7. Gloucestershire with a good start, 5 wins out of 6 in the first half, and then beaten, of course, at Taunton last week. Should tell you that although he's not playing tonight, the club have announced loan signing of James Hayes from Nottinghamshire today. He's eligible for the rest of the tournament. He's not the only loan signing done by the club today. We're delighted to welcome Melissa Story to the commentary box. You'll know her from the Gloucestershire women's team as a player. You'll know him from the radio with TMS. Melissa, delighted to have you.
Thank you very much. No, I'm delighted to be here for, as you say, this almost top of the table clash here between these two sides. And interesting from a Gloucestershire perspective to see how that momentum they rattled on early in this competition, they can rein that back in after that disappointing defeat down in Taunton against Somerset. And for Northamptonshire, how much further can they go with this run of total destruction they've gone on? I mean, their last game against Essex, winning by over 100 runs, and yeah, I feel like this is going to be a really good contest this evening.
They've done that twice this year. They beat Worcestershire by 100 and, as Melissa said, Essex by 130. So I'll give you the Northants team, and Melissa can give you the Gloucestershire side. The Northants team in general has been very settled through the tournament. Just one change from the 11 that beat Essex in the last game. Chris Lynn, who's their top batsman in the competition, he's got a century and 350s already. He's been struggling with a hamstring injury, so he is rested tonight. And they bring in Louis Kimber, who you might remember was the concussion sub that got that important half century in the championship match here back in May when Northants won by 2 wickets. So their team, Ricardo Vasconcelos, Nathan McSweeney, Calvin Harrison will move up the order and bat at 3. Their captain, David Willey, who's just signed a new contract with the club, Justin Broad, Saif Zaid, then Kimber batting at 7, Lewis McMahon, James Sales, who got 5 wickets in the reverse fixture, Ben Sanderson and George Scrimshaw. Northants will be bowling first because Jack Taylor won the toss and elected to bat. And the Gloucestershire team, Melissa?
Well, one change for Gloucestershire as well, with David Milan coming in for his first Gloucestershire appearance. He takes the place of Joe Phillips, and understand batting at number 3. So the lineup looks like this: Miles Hammond and Darcy Shaw at the top of the order, David Milan, then Liam Scott, Jack Taylor, Cameron Darrowell, James Bracey, Graham Van Buren, Daz Ahmed, Marchant Delanger and Will Williams. A Gloucestershire side who, you know, it's been discussed as suffering from quite a few injuries in terms of this lineup, but at least I look at it and think there's depth behind there in the changing room. It's just going to be interesting to see how they adapt with probably not their preferred 11 out there on the pitch today, but you can only do with the team you have in front of you and the conditions you have in front of you.
Yeah, so that injured list, David Payne, of course, out for the whole of the tournament because of that ankle surgery. Ollie Price, Craig Miles, Ben Charlesworth, Matt Taylor. That's 5 players who all would be in Gloucestershire's first 11 if all 5 were fit. So, as Rob Scanlon just announces the arrival of the 2 teams, our umpires tonight are Ben Peverell and Ian Blackwell, and Simon Hinks is our match referee. Darcy Short has walked out to the middle, not with Miles Hammond, but with David Milan.
There you go, that confirmation that we're going to see Hammond slot down the order into that number 3 role. I mean, you understand that the move in the sense that David Milan, that brilliant international career, which he was used to opening at the top of the order, and I think as well, being able to capitalise on that power play with the options that he offers, using the depth of the crease, those powerful blows, playing on a pretty full size outfield here today. We can see the temporary stand to our left, which is preparing for the England men's game against India in the T20 series, where we're expecting a full house here at Bristol. But no, you can expect with David Milan sat on the bench for so long now, he's going to be desperate to get out there and make an impact for his new team.
So the pitch is one of the ones used during the Women's World Cup. Bright evening, so fairly central on the square, and Northants in the field, and up for Gloucestershire to set them as testing target as they can. Louis Kimber to bowl the first over, and Melissa's going to take us through it.
Well, the field set, deep mid-wicket, long off. His first delivery to short is short. He pulls it towards mid-on. And there's Louis Kimber into the side with the ball in hand. This time, better length, you would argue. Push back towards him. And with this field he's got set, you can imagine just looking to probably tuck up Darcy Short here, getting him working it down the ground, that slightly fuller length. And whilst width created there by Darcy Short, doesn't manage to beat that inner ring.
It's almost bowling a length that a seam would bowl. That's a back of a length.
Fuller, and will find the gap. It's one of those sweepers on the boundary. So Gloucestershire off the mark, one without loss.
Yeah, the two men out at the moment, or for at least for Short, were at long off and deep mid-wicket. Now from Milan, do they change the field? And regular watchers of cricket at Bristol will know that the shorter boundaries are the straight ones. The square boundaries, once again, tonight quite long, particularly towards what will of course be called the David Graveney stand from next season.
Milan to face his first ball in a Gloucestershire shirt and will immediately get off the mark. Guiding the ball just wide to extra cover. And I'm really interested to see how this surface plays this evening. I mentioned it's a used wicket, used in one of those ICC T20 Women's World Cup fixtures. More respectful defensive shot from Milan there, almost looking to force it a bit, but reining it in at the last moment. So the first over gone, one without loss. Slightly sedate start there from Gloucestershire, but that was generally the trend we saw across the World Cup. There was some individual amazing performances with Tasmin Brits and Chamari Atapatu both scoring hundreds at this ground. But actually, around those innings, teams struggled quite a bit to get to the pace of the surfaces. We saw quite a bit of tennis ball bounce as well, and almost worth batters at the top of the order investing in their innings, giving it a bit of time so that they could cash in later on once they've got used to the pitch.
Well, it feels a little bit as if Northamptonshire have burgled an over there at the start of this innings with a cheap one from Kimber. Sanderson will bowl with a slip from the Ashley Down Road end. And Milan to take strike. Again, the two boundary riders are out square of the wicket. A very experienced and indeed highly rated Sanderson. That's clipped off his pads by Milan. Down towards fine leg as a chase towards just in front of the dugouts, and it will beat the chase of Zabe, and it will go for 4.
That just goes to show how fast this outfield is here. Even slightly going up the slope towards the left of the pavilion, the ball just flew away. The slightest of glances and positive signs from a batting perspective.
There's no doubting Milan's quality in his career. The only thing he hasn't done much lately, of course, is play some proper competitive cricket. So he might have to work his way into it. That's not a bad shot to do so against a long chase this time, and a good stop away on the deep extra cover boundary. And they'll come back for a couple. That looked quite nicely timed. There's a gap there to play the ball into, but he still got well over it. And there's a long run round in front of the big screen where England have celebrated a 2-1 win over the Congo with the World Cup. 2 goals from Harry Kane late in the second half. Here, Sanderson in bright sunshine, that's steered down off a deliberate thick edge from David Milan. Stopped though comfortably by Scrimshaw. He's inside the circle at third man.
It's interesting to see his stance here, Milan. He's got his hands quite close to his hip, but actually the toe of his bat angled out at a 45-degree angle. So just having to adjust to straighten that at the last moment so that he can work the ball into gaps here.
8 for no wicket. Milan gets that on the inside half of the bat, tried to force it up towards mid-off, but got it on the inside half and fielded by James Sales, who we'll no doubt see bowl later. So he took 5 for a handful in the reverse fixture. But really it's been Northampton's batting that's got them to top spot in this group. Sanderson, not a very long approach, and that ball rather follows Milan. He just dabs it out on the offside and fielded by Kimber.
I've always enjoyed watching Sanderson bowl. You know, not express pace, but that canny operator who, on countless occasions before, watching him saunter up to the wicket to defend such small margins in final overs of games for Northampton and getting them over the line consistently.
Umpire Peveril stands at the bowler's end. It's very short, and he might have to make a call there about a wide. Yes.
There's that tennis ball bounce.
Yeah, that was very short. In fact, Sanderson had quite a long chat with some of us at the championship game at the Cheltenham Festival, which would have been, I think, 2022. Graham van Buren made a century and Gloucestershire declared, setting Northampton about 200 to win, and Ryan Rickleton got about 80. Sanderson played in that game, bowled really well, and here he just gives Milan no more than a singles. That's pushed into the leg side. But we had a chat with him before the start of play one day. And you're very affable character, clearly, you know, just loves playing, and he's trying to make as much of his career as he can, because he's, what is he now, 37? You wouldn't know, still looks fit as a fiddle, and he's still taking bucket loads of wickets in the championship, 10 for no wicket.
Yeah, all that talk about Jimmy Anderson, getting it through at his age, and not enough talk about Ben Sanderson, because, I mean, the commitment which goes in behind the scenes, particularly as a fast bowler, the relentless injuries which can come up if you don't maintain that fitness. I just think that it often passes by the general spectator.
Northampton, with Kimber in, Northampton have got 3 slow bowlers in their team tonight.
As Kimber is in to Milan, navigates that one just awkwardly. And it seems that whilst they haven't quite taken that risk against the spin yet, Gloucestershire won't want the Steelbacks here to get away with another over just going for 1 or 2 runs. As he backs away, driving the ball out towards deep mid-wicket, where there is that fielder on the boundary, moved round wider from where they were in the previous over at long off.
Just wonder whether, I mean, Short last year took a little bit of time to get going in the tournament, a little bit the same this time. I wonder whether Milan's feeling his way just a little bit back into first team cricket.
Short pulling this one off the hip, and he beats the inner ring. 2 fielders in pursuit, racing down the hill. And they are going to retrieve the ball within the rope. A good chase, and what they often say in fielding, hunting in packs, so that you can go down, parry the ball to your teammate. And they keep it to 2. It's probably not that Angle Kimber would be looking to achieve there, whilst he can afford to bowl it on the hip of Short. We'll need it just that little bit fuller so he can't rock back and pull it away. That's the perfect delivery, you feel. Fuller, Darcy Short, just work it off the pads out towards deep mid-wicket.
Harrison's the boundary rider out there. We'll no doubt see him, and almost certainly McSweeney bowl as well, I would think. For Northampton, they've got plenty of bowling and a stack of batting in their team.
Kimber is into Milan, who finally unleashes. You could tell there was that feeling of a big shot coming, whilst Gloucestershire had held back from playing a reckless swipe across the line. I think Milan there recognising that There was no threat to the stumps on that occasion, so he could get his arms through the shot. Moves to 13.
Just that fraction wider, just enabled him just to. He didn't really step away, but it was just enough movement. He's sort of swayed almost backwards, leaving his feet where they were, that made room to go down the ground where at the moment there is no cover outside the circle.
I wonder if there was just a bit more grip and turn off that one as well, because you mentioned Milan lost his balance. Maybe the ball getting slightly stuck in the surface there, as Kimber, after that boundary, replies with a single towards the boundary rider, where Nathan McSweeney returns to the keeper. Single taken. Much better over for Gloucestershire as they move to 19 without loss. But I mean, I'd still say from a Northants perspective, to get Kimber through 2 overs in the power play, just conceding 11 runs, a really good move from the visitors.
I think it was after maybe the first game of the competition, that Warwickshire game, where Mark Lane said the pitch was a bit stoppy. I wonder if that might be the case here with this one, being as it's a surface that's been used before. Sanderson to have a second over from the Ashley Down Road end. That's an in-out shot from Milan. One bounce out to Harrison in front of the partially constructed stand for the India match here with England a week tomorrow.
Are you coming to watch that one?
I haven't got a ticket.
No, neither have I.
I've got a ticket. I think, frankly, you should have bought a ticket in December if you'd wanted a ticket.
I'm sure that India fans will be arriving in mass for that game.
Sanderson again. Short, a little dab into the offside, a pincher single again. And I'm sure as these two are facing each delivery, 21 without loss, they're starting to work out what they think might be a reasonable score on here.
And if anything, you often see in the power play the 5th and 6th over being more expensive. But actually, it's that gamble between, do we go after Sanderson now when we've already seen an over of his, we know what's coming, or do we take that risk with a new bowler potentially next?
That's down the leg side. Milan didn't get that off the part of the bat he wanted. He could have lifted it over Zabe down to the boundary, but he got it almost off the toe end of the bat and it went out square on the leg side towards the stand in front of the scoreboard, which has now quite a good number of spectators in it. People have filtered round from behind.
I think they've had to go replace their drinks from when they launched them in the air when that second goal was scored.
Maybe. Gloucestershire batting first, having won the toss tonight. That's clipped straight to mid-wicket, where Sales again does the fielding by Darcy Short. So the Gloucestershire side, if you didn't hear it earlier, just the one change. Milan in for Joe Phillips. Matt Taylor's still not fit enough, although the hope is that by the weekend he may be fit enough to play at Edgbaston on Sunday. Sanderson here to Short. That's gone away and it's gone past. One bounce 4 to the fielder on the deep square leg boundary. For a moment, there might just have been a chance of McSweeney hauling that in, or possibly even parrying it, even if he didn't catch it. But he was beaten by just about 2 or 3 strides and it went for 4. So 26 for no wicket.
As a boundary sweeper, that's almost the moments you dream of, because you think you can replicate a glorious diving catch, but it was just out of reach.
Sanderson again. Oh, Short tries to repeat that. He's taken a blow and he might just need a moment. Darcy Short, that's not the end. It is the end of the over actually, so he may get that moment now. So Sanderson's got through 2 overs, Kimber's got through 2 overs, and Gloucestershire are 26 for no wicket after 4. It's a modest start at the moment, and the key thing is, I suppose, given we've seen sides lose maybe 3 wickets in the power play here earlier in the season, and indeed Somerset were heavily wickets down in the power play last week. At the moment, the good thing is for Gloucestershire, as David Woody comes on, that the openers are still together.
So David Willey, left arm fast medium, He's going to have a deep square, deep point. So you expect him to be bowling those harder lengths as he runs into Milan. Goes down on one knee and wristily almost sweeps the ball away backwards of square. He'll pick up 4 runs. We see him play that shot quite a lot, particularly effective in the power play. For David Willey, who there'll still be a bit of lacquer on that ball. It's already been used for 4 overs now, so that swing that he can sometimes generate didn't quite seem as evident there. Milan going with the angle down the leg side. Will he try it again? That'll be the interesting decision here as he looks over his shoulder beforehand, and Willie responds with a good length delivery. Milan, as you would often say, good cricket there, finding the boundary and then finding the single.
So often we've heard that. You know, just rotate the strike. Don't get too excitable out of having hit the 1 ball for 4. Just ticks the scoreboard on again. Obviously got 2 left-handers in, but we haven't got a change of line for Willie to Darcy Short, but
Short striking just below 100 here. We need to rein in that potential frustration as he takes a quick single off the hip. Can't be cut off by mid-wicket. Squeezing in from well within that inner ring. And Short, with the experience he's got, he's not going to look up at the board and see a strike rate under 100 and completely panic. But we have seen with some Darcy Short innings that he either cashes in and goes on to get that big score, or quite frequently is dismissed very early on in the game because of that attacking nature he plays. But it does feel as if today he's adapting to the surface well, with Milan now working a fuller ball to short fine leg. This time compelled to sprint through for that single, something we've not seen too much from these openers so far. There's been quite the leisurely running taking place.
The Northants fielders on the edge of the circle are literally right on the edge. They're not short of Vasconcelos, for example, who's at mid-wicket. It's being sent out now, it's in fact onto the rope. If they were literally playing a drop and run, then there was almost no chance of Northants affecting a run out.
So deep mid-wicket now out. Are we going to see a shorter delivery from Willie? In fact, it's the bluff, slower ball. They do get through for the run, taking a single to the left of extra cover.
Just to clarify, particularly Northants viewers will know, but with Vasconcelos and McManus both in the team, Northants can pick who keeps wicket, and today McManus is behind the stumps and Vasconcelos almost certainly open the batting out in the deep on the leg side.
And it's nice they have that option so that Vasconcelos doesn't have to potentially be under the helmet for most of the innings and then immediately go out there and open the batting. Back of a length ball, rides the bounce, does Milan nicely. Again, taking a single to that short fine leg fielder. End of the 5th over, Gloucestershire 35 without loss. It's not exactly sweltering this evening as we've seen over the last few weeks, but certainly nice conditions for an evening here in Bristol to watch some cricket. And I think we can safely say, with the big screen to our left turned off now, that all the lingering football fans are safely sat in their seats to watch the blast.
Yeah, we're going to see James Sales now from the Ashley Down Road end to bowl the last over of the power play. So Gloucester going at 7 at the moment, despite that cheap first over from Louis Kimball. They've made that up. And we'll keep you in touch also with what's happening in the India-England T20 up at Chester Street. India batting 165 for 4 in the 18th over at the moment.
Obviously coming off the back of 2 losses to the mighty Irish team.
Well, that was quite a way for Ireland to decide that series. Firm shot for Sales' first ball from Milan. Good stop on the edge of the circle. Took the bulk of the power off the shot, but didn't stop Milan going through for 1.
With this positioning of the fielders on the ring, I wonder whether that's an assessment from the Steelbacks that this pitch potentially isn't as stoppy as we might have thought, and It's quite true, so they just want to be more defensive. If it was a bit more two-paced, you'd expect a couple more closer catches and an attacking move for them.
Sells a very straight approach. That's gone over the top from Darcy Short. There's no need to chase that. That'll go all the way for 4. 2 or 3 bounces up towards the supporters sitting in the seats in front of the apartments at the far end of the ground, the Ashley Down Road end. Scrimshaw was right on the edge of the circle, but there was no way he was chasing that.
I mentioned earlier, you often find the 5th and 6th overs of a power play are the most expensive, and with this being the final one where they can really cash in Gloucestershire on only 2 fielders outside the ring before 5 go out. Even though Short didn't get all of that, it was enough to execute that plan, and I wonder here if Sales pitches it up again, whether he'll be tempted to go again, but instead cover's been brought in and deep mid-wicket's gone out. So the 2 sweepers on the boundary on the leg side.
David Woolley is just sorting that leg side field. So he's packing the offside with fielders inside the circle. That's gone out to deep square. And a fumble. It might have been a second run there, but I think they'd really sorted out in their own minds there was only going to be 1. And as a result, they weren't going to take a gamble on the throw. 41 without loss.
And not to be too critical of this partnership, which is 41 without loss, but I would have liked to see maybe a bit more intent between the wickets when they are hitting the ball to the boundary riders, because, as you say, you never know when there's going to be a misfield.
Sales staying over the wicket. Nice pleasant drive from Milan. Does go for the single slam. Now there may be a second run here. That's gone off the heel of George. No, it's not Scrimshaw. That's Justin Broad down there, I think. But it's gone off his heel, and they've seen it early enough to come back for a second run. Milan on to 26.
So in a similar vein there, even if it's a fielder in the boundary or in the ring or on the boundary, run that first one hard always.
Last over of the power play. Milan content with 1 this time. There's a big gap on the leg side, and Sales actually has to do the fielding off his own bowling. Milan's not happy about something. It's a drink, I think. And perhaps Northants, I'm saying for the first time in the tournament, because they've done well, whether they've batted first or second, but maybe a little bit of pressure being put on them. It's very short. It's going to be caught by Scrimshaw. Slower ball perhaps from Sales, and the first wicket for Northamptonshire in the last over of the power play. Felt a bit of a soft dismissal, and Scrimshaw at short third man accounts for Darcy Short for 16 and Gloucestershire 44 for 1.
It was the back of the hand slower ball there from Sales, and I like that move from him because it's the final ball of the power play. You've already gone for 9 runs, which is one of the more expensive overs in this innings so far from Northants, albeit it could be a lot worse. But to have that confidence to back that back of the hand slower ball, when you know the safe option as a bowler would just to be get through that over, bowl a stock ball. But it was nice deception, took loads of pace off the ball, and an outing for Liam Scott now in his second Gloucestershire appearance.
So here's I suppose maybe the challenge you might see is having 3 left-handers in principle in the top 3 in the order. So by dropping Miles Hammond down, you've now got the right left-hand combination at the end of the power play, and it gives you a left-hander for later on if you wish to juggle the batting order. We're going to see spin again from this Bristol Pavilion end with the introduction of Calvin Harrison, who, what did he take, 5 for 9 earlier in the tournament?
I was just going to look that up because I think I watched that compilation of his wickets on repeat. Really, good move as well. As soon as you're at the power play, bringing on that wrist spin option, field spread, and he bowls at quite a quick pace for a leg spinner as well, which can cause a few difficulties. But Milan, the set batter, is driving on the up and just squeezed past the fielder. A lot of work to do for deep cover, who responds well on the boundary in the end. They're going to come back for a third. I think Liam Scott there somewhat encouraging the freshly back from injury David Milan there to come through for that third. And actually that first ball from Harrison, in fact it's a 2, apologies. Well no, it would be a 3 because Milan hit the shot. There we go. Yeah, that first ball being a lot slower, in fact, made them reach for it outside the off stump. Now we're going to see the more traditional matchup of the right-hander facing leg spin, a straighter delivery. Scott's first defended towards extra cover for no run.
Obviously, in the main, he was batting up 4 in the Big Bash. So interesting that he's come in 1 up here.
Drives, but not past the fielder at extra cover. And it's Kimber there, who one-handed palms the ball perfectly back to the bowler. It's Harrison to a reverse sweep from Scott. There was a fielder in the ring at that short third region, but actually the quicker delivery meant that the ball flew away easier, and 50's up for Gloucestershire.
We both know, don't we, that that's the short boundary down towards that corner of the ground. So if you don't get everything on it, that doesn't say you still can't get 4.
Harrison responds with a good length delivery, and he's a tall leg spinner as well. We often hear so much talk around release height with Shoaib Bashir within the England men's test side, and that difference it makes having not only variations in pace but natural bounce coming from that release point as well, as mid-wicket used to bolster that deep short third region means that it's an easy single into the leg side for Scott. He'll move to 5. Gloucestershire 52 for 1 after 7 overs.
I was a bit frustrated by how the ball was coming out of his hand in that over, but he's got 3 more, and at the moment Gloucestershire keeping wickets in hand, which is a good tactic. But Harrison has took 5 for 9 earlier in this competition, and Northampton are going to now have spin from both ends because Kimber's coming back, having bowled 2 overs for 11 in the power play, but having now switched ends. So from the Ashton Road end, that's very short, and that's pulled for 6 into the partially constructed stand for the India match, and Liam Scott climbed into that. That was a drag down, and his eyes lit up, and he got full value for it.
Now to observe one of my favourite things cricketers spotted, climbing into abandoned stands to go retrieve the ball, and you see some stewards there walking towards as well, seeing how they could help. It wasn't quite dramatic.
Scrabbling in a hedge on a Saturday afternoon though, isn't it? Kimber again, that's very short. This time Scott hasn't got all of it and fires it out to deep mid-wicket, but he'll only get 1. Vasconcelos is out there.
You can see what he's trying to do here with that shorter boundary, more towards cow corner, the shorter straight boundaries as well, by getting the Gloucestershire batters to hit more square. But he's got to be careful. If it's too short, you can just get underneath it as a batter, like that first delivery.
This is the 8th over, and an attempted reverse from Milan. Has that gone off any element of the bat? I suspect not. Oh, there must have been a thin edge there, because Ben Peverell walks out to the pitch about 2 strips across and walks back again with no signal. So Milan to 31. Scott, who's cleared the rope already once. It's for Kimber. And again, that's a very straight, so he's got no option really but to punt it down the ground and just pick up a single.
Milan will be relieved as well that his first outing for Gloucestershire, all that time on the bench worrying about, will you just get an absolute peach for your first one, a Yorker maybe, and he's done well here.
Kimber back around the wicket to the left-hander, and that's very wide. And signalled as such by umpire Peverell. tip and run by Milan into the leg side. Just looking down Northampton's chases this season, they've chased 165 and 209 to win. They won again at Worcester by DLS, but so the biggest, but to say you chased over 200 to win, they won't be overly concerned at the moment. And Scott picks up another single here up to deep long on. So at the moment, the slower bowlers are proving, if they're really accurate, they're proving difficult to get away. 64 for 1 off 8. The key thing at the moment for Gloucestershire is the wickets column, because they've got all sorts of flexibility behind this pair, depending on how long they stay together.
And an incredibly deep batting lineup with Daz Ahmed carded to come in at number 9. I expect he might be moved up so slightly, but Marshall DeLanger as well, who we've seen on countless occasions hit a long ball. As Harrison into his second, gives this one a bit of flight, and it's wristily worked out towards deep square. Liam Scott there was searching for a second run.
Probably 1.5 there, I would have thought. No, not much more than 1.5, and that wouldn't have been much good to anybody. Unless you're a Northamptonshire supporter.
But I agree with you that this is a Northamptonshire side who, you know, they've won 7 out of 7. They're going to be taking a lot of confidence from their past performances and run chases. As Harrison sees the reverse sweep from Milan, follows him, and he gets a bottom edge into the ground. Milan staying down in that lunge position just to really rub it in that he missed out on that one. The key just being not to move too early. As Harrison, on this occasion, sived over the head of backward point. 3 fielders converging down on the boundary. And Milan will add 2 to his tally.
That plugged a little bit, didn't it? It just sort of, once it got over the infield, it almost trickled towards the rope. So they were only able to get 2.
It's barely on any pace on it, really. It's Milan. This time adjusts to the flatter delivery, works it into that large open space on the leg side. This time content with a single. But I do think, you know, that the way Northamptonshire, the Steelbacks, they've rotated their bowlers so far has been smart. The spin options in their side today, those 3 spin options, so far seem to be the way to go on this slightly slower surface. There's a straight pull from Scott down towards long on for a single.
So Gloucestershire, Van Beeren, Short and Jack Taylor could, and you could extend that a bit further if you want. You know, would Miles Hammond get an over? Don't know. But there were certainly 3 frontline spinners you would think would have a big role to play.
Final ball of the second over is picked up, and that's gone a long way by Milan, almost clearing the temporary stand to the right of the pavilion. And on this occasion, an incredibly enthusiastic Stewart racing up to the top to retrieve the ball. Fantastic finish to the over. And Gloucestershire nearing that halfway point, starting to build a bit of momentum, and it's going to be all built around David Milan here. 23 off the last 2 overs, which has just helped bolster things a little bit. 44 for 1 at the end of the power play. And since then, we've had an 8, a 12 and an 11. So it's been a good base, and it's questioning whether somebody, probably Milan more so at the moment, you would think, can go on and make a really big score that can be the glue for the whole innings. Sales will bowl over number 10. From the Ashley Down Road end. Scott waits for him. And content with a single. Out into the onside, the fielder comes in from long on. Mark just looks at his captain and says, do you want me to go back to the rope again? And the answer which is yes. And they're further strengthening the leg side now, or the offside rather, to Milan. So there's a massive gap on the leg side. He's only got a short fine leg, a deep square,
Fielder out in front of the scoreboard, you could say at cow corner, and a long on, all on the rope. So only one man inside the circle on the leg side. Clever shot, you could get two in a lot of places on that leg side, if that's the way he decides to play it. And it's gone fine, and he'll get 4. Just in terms of the line, too loose, or loose enough that Milan can clip that away, play it with virtually no risk, and pick up a boundary.
And that's the risk in this angle across the left-hander. With deep cover long off out, you can give some width, but you're almost playing into the shots that Milan likes to play. That one was easy pickings, but also that sweep down on one knee. It's got a very low margin for error here.
Sells again. That's straight up. I only get 1 because Sanderson is the fielder inside the circle at short fine leg, and he can move round just to kick them down to a single. So Milan up to 46 off 29. Just the sort of impact when you sign a player of his level of experience, just the sort of impact you want, even though he's been out of the team because of injury. I think he's a bit rusty, but I haven't seen that so far. Scott waits for Sells. That again's on the leg stump. That'll be 4 more. So he's gone leg stump to both right and left-handers here, and Gloucestershire have profited with 2 boundaries so far in this over. Milan signalling again for something. I wonder if is there a window, I wonder, open at that far end that is causing
I think he's
some sort of sightline issue.
I'm not sure it's a sight issue. I think he's certainly calling for something from 12th man down in the dugout.
Scott picks up a single up to long on. Once again, Harrison this time doing the fielding.
He's called potentially for a new pair of gloves. Which you can...
How many balls to go in the over? He says the answer is 1. So there may be a glove run halfway through this Gloucestershire innings. And 1 wicket down so far, that of Darcy Short, and Milan and Scott can have perhaps a brief chat now as the gloves are run out. 87 for 1 at halfway. I think, given what we saw at the start, bear in mind Jack Taylor was a bit concerned about this being a used pitch, whether it might get a bit more difficult to bat on later. I think Gloucestershire will be pleased where they are at the moment. But it's hard to know where the limit might be. Perhaps they shouldn't be setting a ceiling and saying, right, maybe want to get ahead of 180, really.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelbacks were 85 without loss after 6 overs in their last game on Friday. And I was about to say as well, we haven't seen Scrimshaw yet, who's been brought into the attack now. It's going to be, a role for him to play now in these mid-overs towards the death. Offers that bit of extra pace for the Steelbacks. And I just wonder here whether Milan, now that he's got used to the pace of the surface with those slower bowlers, he'll be absolutely craving a bit more pace on the ball. So whilst Scrimshaw is a hugely disciplined bowler, Milan, if I was him here, I'd be thinking here's a real good opportunity here to try and capitalise and force the Steelbacks to remove that bit of extra pace from the attack again. We'll see how he gets on here. Scrimshaw, as he's running away with us to the left-handed Milan. Starts on the hip. It's respectfully nudged into the onside for a single.
And that almost looked like a slower ball to start with from Scrimshaw. That didn't appear to come down at the sort of pace I might have expected. He may have just deceived him with a slower one to...
He may have just had a big dinner.
Well, not sure what the pre-match meal for the players was today.
Do you normally go down and do a bit of an investigation? It's pretty good here, I must say, compared to other grounds around the country. You get some good grub at the county ground. Scrimshaw, another slower ball. Takes an age to get down there towards Scott. Whips off the pads. Takes a single. And the assessment from the Steelbacks here that this is a surface responding well to those changes in pace. And, you know, we've not seen really high scores at this ground in particular, and even across the ICC T20 Women's World Cup with the games which were hosted here as well, save for the South African innings against the Netherlands when they scored over 200. A lot of sides batting first struggled to put on largely imposing totals. But the benefit for Gloucestershire here being they've got wickets in hand, and finally a full-pace delivery, and it goes the distance. Milan brings up his 50 in his first appearance for Gloucestershire, raises the bat to the dugout and soaks in the applause from the crowd.
And that was a very clean hit. It went a long way up and probably a good 15 rows back into that partially built stand. The ball has been retrieved. Just to get your point, Melissa, Gloucestershire won defending 121 against Warwickshire here. They chased 138 to beat Somerset, and they defended 148 against Worcestershire. So, you know, you'd have to say that at the moment they are on to record the highest score of a side batting first.
Scrimshaw to Milan, this time an optimistic shout for leg before, striking the thigh pad, and to Milan then getting struck by the ball, flicked back into the bowler's end, making sure he makes a few friends out there as he retrieves it for the Steelbacks and returns it to Scrimshaw, who followed up that delivery which was hit for 6 with another probably more full-pace delivery, and he's going to be apprehensive to bowl the ball too full with these shorter straight boundaries, as this time the right-hander, it is that back of a length delivery, swivelling on it, getting it down towards deep backward square for 1. You know, this platform, I think, for Gloucestershire, that will be key. Whilst they could probably get away with, you know, if they'd lost a few more wickets, scores in the realm of 150, which you've mentioned there, they'll be going, well, we'd like a more comfortable victory than that, particularly against an incredibly informed side like the Steelbacks. So for me, I mean, at this stage, 180 will be probably the minimum of just being 1 wicket down. Milan's set in 54. Extra cover coming into more of a catching position now. And Milan drives straight past him. They should come back for 2 as the fielder at the deep cover boundary, having to move round to his left. And Gloucestershire to 99 for 1 after 11.
These two came together when the score was 44 off the last ball of the power play. That's when Darcy Short was out. But it's been a good stand between these two. And I say all sorts of flexibility in terms of who might come in next. Hammond, Jack Taylor, Graham Van Buren, even Cameron Darrell, who did really well down at Taunton in a losing cause, to be sure, but second score of some significance in the competition.
Milan here just continuing to stretch in between each delivery.
Wonder if he'll be fielding later. David Woody back to bowl a second over, but from a different end this time, the Ashley Down Road end. And Scott, who looks a bit like Bo Webster from when he's batting with the, you're not looking at him back front on, 100 up. And now Milan just doing 1 or 2 stretches. He wouldn't have been batting for this long in the middle of a competitive game for many months. Netting is okay, but nothing like being out there. Well, with the lights on, even though you don't really need them at the moment, the sunshine's very bright. There's a single to Milan out to deep square. That was a bit of a hoik.
Just looking to see if the Gloucestershire physio, Chris Powler, is looking a bit tetchy on the sidelines there with Milan stretching out his leg, and he'll be the best judge of how he's feeling. As you say, it's most likely that fatigue which has come from not playing in such a long period of time.
And he has 2 out on the leg side for Scott. One of those will be called into action of a attempted power hit literally back into that stand again, but he didn't get everything of it. And they'll just pick up one.
Willie's doing well to cramp both of these batters in the way that they can't get that free flow of the swing. You often think when practicing the pull shot that you want to meet the ball as early as you can in front of you to generate that additional power, but on both occasions now their arms have just been tucked up to their body and it's only resulted in the single.
Willie again. Aerial from Milan. Is that big enough to go all the way? It is. Just to the right of the scoreboard as we look out from the pavilion end. There have been a couple of really clean hits from David Milan this evening, and that one's gone again, good 10 rows back.
And that was that free flow. You could see him go deeper in the crease just to give himself that bit of an extra chance of meeting the ball earlier. And it's such small margins for a bowler in T20 cricket for David Willey there.
Northants have used 6 bowlers so far. Kimber has bowled 3. Nobody else has bowled more than 2. This is Willie's second over. And again, Milan waits for him. It's a different sort of shot this time. Didn't again try and hit that too hard. Might have thought about trying to go for a second run later in the innings. At the back of his mind, we know that it's been a calf injury, and the last thing he wants to do is to pull up again and rule himself out of a tournament that only has another 2.5 weeks to run. All the fixtures have to be played by the 18th. The group stages are over Sunday of next week. This really is the business end of things. Liam Scott waits for David Willey, goes down the ground. It's a flat hit, and it's not stopped. He's going to get 4. It looked initially as if the fielder out at the far end of the ground in front of the apartments, almost a Klinger corner as it was christened at one point, I was going to parry that in and potentially with the aid of a colleague potentially save 3 runs, but all he could do was push it over the rope, and it's an extra boundary to Scott. It's 113 for 1 with 8 overs to go.
I wonder as well if Milan's being limited in the runs he can push for, if we're going to see a shift in momentum now, wickets in hand. Is Scott going to be the player to put his hand up and go, well, I'll hit those boundaries, or will it in fact be Milan? Will it be both of them forced to because of the nature of Milan not being able to push for that too? It's a similar situation to actually what's happened for England's women with Nat Sivabrunt when she returned in this World Cup side. Harrison to bowl as third. And the reverse ramp attempted by Milan. He doesn't make contact with it in the end, but Harrison, who follows him, ends up firing the ball wide. It's gone away for 5 wide, so it's not an ideal start to the over. But, I mean, as I was saying, Nat Sivabrunt, her return to the England side, played against Ireland, ran so many 2s out in the middle that she then was ruled out for the next few fixtures because that calf concern flared up, and still in doubt about whether she'll return for the semi-final between England and South Africa at the Oval tomorrow. So, as you say, there'll be that hesitation to push Milan too hard out there, but if they can keep picking up at least a boundary and over, preferably 2 from a Gloucestershire perspective. Harrison has taken over extra cover and the ball's going to land between 2 fielders. You often say the onus on the fielder running in from the boundary, but actually it was just getting wider and wider away from deep cover. Quite a safe shot to play in the end, even though it did just plug. But again, they just take the 1 run, where most likely, I think Scott would have been looking for a second there. Is he going to take on the leg spinner here? It's flatter. Whipped away out towards deep mid-wicket. And he's walking the second half of the run here because he isn't totally inhibited by the ability of Milan at the other end not to be able to push for that second run. I mean, for me, I think Milan here will be looking for those boundaries because of this. Harrison. Good response to Milan moving into the offside. Bowls a Yorker on his toes, just the one.
I should say Melissa's too modest to mention it. She's at the Oval tomorrow. aren't you?
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited. I haven't had the chance to cover England this whole World Cup, so my first shot at this potential contenders for the World Cup trophy. Flicked away, finds a gap, and this time it's in one of those pockets, and they do come back for 2 runs. Still 2 balls left in this over. No, it's been a highly captivating World Cup and brilliant for Bristol to be the host of some really good games. Saw Ireland's first T20 World Cup victory here, slapped straight to extra cover. It's going to be a dot ball. And it's really, become a bit of a hub for the women's game. It always has supported the women's game so well on an international scale and domestically. Going for the big shot now is Scott. Fielder underneath it, takes the catch, simple. He's looking into the sun, but no doubt in the end, and that pent-up frustration you feel for Scott, who is looking to go through the gears. Far too much height on it.
Nathan McSweeney with the catch. But a good stand. I mean, they came together at 44 for 1, and they've taken Gloucestershire to 123 for 2.
So the physio is running out whilst we see Miles Hammond make his way to the middle. We'll just have a conversation here with Milan and say, what are you feeling? Talk to us. Does this feel like something you can work through, or are we going to consider a retired hurt? But either way, I'm highly doubtful we're going to see Milan play too much of a role in the field later on.
Just stretching once again. And obviously, if you go back to the earlier incident where Ollie Price retired earlier in the tournament, we were told that for DLS purposes, he was retired out. So as Hammond comes to join Milan, to make it back to the 2 left-handers. 123 for 2, 7 overs to go. And Scott, we know, will have an impact later on with the ball as well, but good for him to get some runs with the bat in his first innings here in Bristol. So that partnership taking the score from 44 to 123. So Hammond at the non-striker's end, and Milan to take strike from David Willey. Gentle push into the offside and a gentle trot through for a single. And Miles Hammond isn't, if he was opening, afraid to go for it right from the outset, and here he's got, in a sense, quite a license to do so. He's got a man pretty well set at the other end, and the clock is not exactly in his favour, is it, with 6.5 overs to go?
No, it's such a different scenario to adapt to as a player who's used to going out there with the field up, and now considering where are his boundary options with those 5 fielders back.
Willie again to Hammond. That's attempted to play it out on the leg side. Got a bit tucked up. Didn't really get himself organised. It's dribbled out on the offside. No run. So for Hammond, they've got only 2 men out on the boundary on the offside, but on the leg side, fine leg, deep square, and long on. Willie running towards us in the pavilion. That's fired down the leg side, but not given as a wide by Ben Peverell.
I think Hammond here just looking to work the ball a bit too square. You can see why he's looking to, as you mentioned, with that fine leg and square on the boundary. It's an easy single into that large gap on the leg side, but actually if he can look to play straighter down the ground, it feels as if that serves better on this surface.
Well, he's staying over the wicket again. That's fired in again down the leg side, not given as a wide. They've run what looks like a leg by, if umpire Peverell's signal is going to be correct. So Willie's had 2 deliveries in this over that might have been borderline wides, but not given.
Admittedly, you're not turning probably any of those last 2 deliveries, hitting them straight down the ground because of the angle they are coming across. He was going with that angle, but long off's been pushed back now.
Well, he's had a tight over so far. Can he get out of it? That's a pleasant shot from Milan. That's well timed, and it's very well fielded as well. He only gets 1 run for that. Way to the boundary at deep extra, and a very good bit of work by, I think, Harrison out there has kept them down to a single. This is a miserly over from Willie at this point. Nonetheless, encouraging those in the field from behind the stumps. And the Northants captain, Ian Hammond, tries to give him 2 steps down the pitch to charge him, and Willie sees him coming and forces it a bit wider. And that's a really good over from David Willie. Only 3 runs off it. 126 for 2. 6 overs to go. Northants, in terms of their bowling options for the rest of the innings, Kimber has 1 over to go. Willie has now bowled 3 as well. Sanderson 2. So Kimber's got 1 left. Sanderson's got 2 left. Willie's got 1 left. Sales 2. Harrison 1. Scrimshaw's 1 over cost 11. Whether we'll see him again, I'm not be certain about that.
Well, he's been stretching a similar amount to David Milan out there, so whether we will see him return, either way, Sales changing ends now from the pavilion end. Spoke about the importance on slightly slower surfaces of just investing in your innings. That's exactly what Milan's done. It was a modest start, but he's anchored this first innings well. It was a mistimed drive, goes straight to extra cover. And you can always see in the way that he's had a few miss hits in the last few overs and still rehearsing the shot he would have liked to play there. Maybe it's less of a surface where you ever feel entirely set and comfortable.
Still think they'll be looking at 180 plus.
And Sales into Milan, attempted reverse swat over the keeper's head, misses out. It's a wide ball.
That was what I would call a scruffy delivery, wasn't it?
It was quite scruffy cricket all round, wasn't it? It's not quite the...
I don't think Sales would want to put that on a show reel anyway.
It's not quite the crisp drive on the up to the fielder where you get the good cricket appraisal. Guided down towards deep third. Milan didn't really have to do much there. Incredibly stable base. Opened up the face, watched the ball onto the bat. And so far, despite us suggesting the surface isn't entirely true, for the Steelbacks here, it's just felt as if there's at least 1 delivery in every over where they've gifted a boundary. And you've got to be really careful here with no one out at deep third. Coming across the left-hander, Sales has got to cramp Milan up for room or bowl that fuller length as he has that delivery driven out towards deep cover.
That was the 10th 4, and there have been 4 sixes. It's not a very high percentage of the overall total, actually. Lower than you might expect.
And there was a few more runs which have been left out there as well, which have been missed by Gloucestershire in the middle. In the run chase, the Steelbacks are going to be relentless in how they go about getting these runs chased down. It's changing pace. And Hammond, who's yet to get off the mark now, he's faced 5 deliveries, contending here with the difficulty of starting midway into an innings and adapting to conditions he's not been used to across this competition, usually at the top of the order. Waits for Sales. And he's lofted this one high in the air. Fielder pedalling backwards, drops it. It was a complete miscalculation down in front of us by David Willey. Pedalling backwards. And you could tell that he thought he was going to be taking one of those catches over the shoulder. In the end, the ball just almost lofted, waiting up in the air. He'd gone too far, had to quickly turn round, full 180, and the ball just goes straight through the hands. He didn't give himself enough time there just to adjust, and often you say, by tracking back over your shoulder, you never lose sight of the ball, but he lost sight of it on that occasion. Drive on the up to Willie, fields cleanly on this occasion, as he's reminded by the crowd in front of us. So Hammond gets lucky there, and 15 overs gone, 134 for 2.
Interestingly, it's been a very evenly paced innings. Only really 2 overs where Northampton have really put the brakes on. Kimber's first over at the start, where you can argue Gloucestershire were just getting set, and then Willie's 14th over, which only cost 3 singles. Apart from that, it's been a steady rate from Gloucestershire. Northants have not given away a big over yet. Whether Gloucestershire can force them to do that in what remains of the innings remains to be seen. So the skipper's going to bowl his last over. Willie from the Ashley Down Road, and the sun's gone inwards for the first time in the evening. Whipped away by Milan, but straight to McSweeney just for a single. Well, they've had the lights on since the start, but they haven't really needed them. Crowd tonight obviously influenced to some degree by matters earlier on at the World Cup, whether the club did do the best for putting the match on the big screen. Around about 2,500, we were told, is a sort of number, plus maybe whatever walk up there may be, is the term used for literally fans who decide on the day that they're going to come to the game. Willie in again. Hammond, we've got a flourish away on the leg side. He'll only pick up 1 though. Again to McSweeney, who'll bounce that in to McManus. The 2 wickets to fall after Gloucestershire won the toss. Darcy Short caught by Scrimshaw off Sales for 16. And Liam Scott on his home debut caught by McSweeney off Harrison for 33. And Hammond in an unusual place in the order. Just has 3 at the moment. Milan 74 is the backbone of everything. And that's, again, almost played into the same place as that last Hammond shot. Didn't quite get all of that. And McSweeney again called into action on the deep square boundary. Confines them, is that the word? Confines them to 1.
I'll trust it.
Restricts is a better word. Restricts is a better word to a single. Still 180 probably is about where Gloucestershire would want to get to. Willie to Milan, doesn't middle that, but again as it's dropped short, a bit like a sand wedge that's less powerful than a longer club. He'll get 1 for that.
Steelbacks are adapting well to this surface, I would say, because there's been a lot of mishits in these last few overs. The Gloucestershire batters losing their shape, the way Hammond struggled to get going. David Willey again backing up his previous really strong over, is doing it again for his side.
Milan might think about 2 here, but by the time he's got to the non-striker's end, it's pretty obvious that the throw is going to prevent that. I mean, that comes back to that number of boundaries and 6s. Perhaps Northampton are going to have to run hard when they bat to make the most of whatever opportunities they get. 4 overs left after this one. Willie to Hammond, who's, along with Milan, played everything into the leg side in this over, but Willie's final figures will be, he hasn't taken a wicket, but he will have decent economy. Those are the overall figures for Northampton at the moment. There are Willie's figures, 4 overs for 31. But there's nothing desperately expensive there. And the question is, can Gloucestershire get after whoever Northampton choose to bowl now at the death? 140 for 2 with 4 to go.
Well, Sanderson's got 2 to go, so you can imagine he's going to be bowling at the death and this next over, in fact. So the penultimate over as well from the pavilion end. Then you've got James Sales with 1 over to go, he's been a bit more expensive. So whether the Steelbacks are going to look to get just one more from Calvin Harrison, sneak one through by Kimber, he's also got one left, or use the frankly underutilised Scrimshaw, who's only bowled the 1 over for 11. Sanderson bowls a Yorker to the advancing Hammond, and he does it so well. Again and again, just executing one of the hardest skills in the game. There's nothing more humbling than practicing your Yorkers during training. You get the little mini hurdle up, and Gloucestershire women, we've had Marsha DeLanger coaching us across the summer and doing Yorker training, and it's probably no one better placed to do so, but it's not great when you can't hit a single one in front of him. Driven towards extra cover, no run, 2 dot balls to start this over.
You hesitate to say it, but if Hammond isn't middling things, then he might almost have to sacrifice his wicket for somebody who might be able to do more than he's done over the last 12 balls, because he hasn't looked as if he's really timing it how he wants at all.
He's averaging 21 this year, Hammond, as he picks up a slower ball just for 1, so moves to 6 off 13. I mean, tactical retirement could be an option, but again, it's that risk of will the player coming in, the batter coming in, also be able to judge the pace of this surface, because Milan's decelerated as well. The Steelbacks have bowled well to their field, and now there's going to be that bit of pressure if they want to get to 180 for the incoming batters to find some boundaries. It's just the 1 from Milan, who's looking to play inventively, particularly behind the keeper, and he's just not managed to really execute any of those dinky shots. And I just look at, you know, Jack Taylor, for example, to come in, who we know what he'll serve up, the strong shots towards deep mid-wicket, cow corner, and whether the captain might just be considering if he can play a role out there in the middle. Low full toss, Hammond steering it towards deep cover.
He looks quite frustrated out there, Hammond, at the moment. He's absolutely aware of what he needs to be doing, and his body language just says that he needs to get his head up, arguably, but he just isn't able to do it at the moment for whatever reason.
Sanderson, again, finding that tricky fuller length. The ball squeezed to short third. 4 runs off it. We've seen the reverse of how most teams intend for their T20 innings to go. With that gradual rise in momentum for Gloucestershire, it just feels as if this innings is being squeezed away from them.
Some of the spectators down in front of the Bristol Pavilion, not only enjoying the cricket, but no doubt perhaps having a beer after England's win earlier on in the World Cup. So 3 overs to go. 180 would be a miracle from here now, I think.
When was the last time we had a boundary? Feels like an age. I'm testing you now.
Yeah, I've not written down the last. I've not written down the last boundary. Sales to bowl his 4th over. That's pulled away, and it will go for 6. Milan making up for 1 or 2 cheaper overs by starting this one with a clean hit away over mid-wicket. 150 up.
I think the last boundary was now 1 ball ago. They've made it quite simple for us there, haven't they? Saved us looking at
You can't scribble everything down. Milan waits again for Sales. Rather a real pull with power as the last shot was. That was a squeeze out on the offside. Now, can Miles Hammond replicate what Milan has done? 85 to Milan. He's been the glue of this innings from the outset. Hammond waits for Sales, and he goes down the ground as well. That will be 6 more. Towards his own apartment, somewhere in that block is Miles Hammond's own flat. He hasn't broken the window with that shot, by the way, but he has cleared the rope. And Gloucestershire need an over, maybe with a 16 or more in it, just to bolster this score, which is it looks competitive, but you really want to press the pedal a bit over these last 3 overs.
Well, with one of your players on 85, I agree. You know, you'd be hoping to get a few more, and this is the over to attack with Sales. He's had an expensive evening. Younger bowler in this attack. Make the most of his final one.
Hammond waits from again. Tries to repeat the dose. Took one hand off the bat, and he's just pulled a single out to deep square. So 123 for 2. So 35 they've added, of which Hammond's share is a modest 14, and it was only in single figures until the start of this over.
Well, this one should go for 6, given the pattern of the over so far.
It's full, and Milan doesn't get anything on it. They've scampered through for... Well, he did get something on it. I thought there was no bat there at all, but umpire Peverill says there was the thinnest of nicks. Milan should be careful whether I say this or not, has got 5 T20 hundreds in his career.
It's not a superstitious person then.
Am I superstitious, you mean?
Well, yeah, I don't believe in commentators' curse.
Sales, that's wide. Hammond goes back and forces that literally up towards long off. He'll keep the strike at the end of the over. Sales finishes with just the 1 wicket, but it was a key one earlier on in the innings when he removed Darcy Short at the end of the power play for 16. Liam Scott, the only other man out, for 33. 2 overs to go, and Gloucestershire are only 2 wickets down. Milan, as you can see there, 86 off 52. We've had to wait for Milan, but he's announced his arrival in some style.
Yeah, he has, and he's been advising the Gloucestershire batters over the last few weeks as well, and stepping in almost a batting coach role. So they'll be looking at this performance from him now and going, well, we can trust that as this one goes high. Fielder positioning himself underneath it, and the ball over the boundary rope. Hammond, who really struggled at the start of this innings, his second 6 now, growing used to the pace of the surface. And this is what Gloucestershire would have been expecting from Hammond. We've seen across countless power plays of the power he possesses. And they got
22 off the last 7 balls.
Going through the gears at Gloucestershire. Sanderson. And balls up. Bowls a full toss, and it's been put down at extra cover. A tough chance to the left there of Justin Broad, but he got his hands to it. It was the moment the elbows hit the ground, the ball just dolloped out. And it's a second drop in this fielding innings, probably the one blight you would say on the Steelbacks' performance in the field has been their catching. Little ramp over the keeper's head. It's going to move Milan into the 90s. And finally, one of those shots behind the keeper, it pays off. You can kind of, take that risk against Anderson here because you know what he's going to do. The pace he bowls means he's not going to suddenly bang in a bouncer too short at you, you feel. We saw that attempted earlier in his first spell, but actually at the death, he does bowl that fuller length, particularly with the field he's got set, long on, long off back. So you can come to expect what's coming down at you. As Milan looks over his shoulder towards the leg side. Sanderson bowls a slower ball, Yorker, hammered back to him, and it's a dot ball.
So 8 balls to go. Perhaps I was a bit undercooking it when I said that 180 would be a miracle.
Look, it's our job to add drama. We never say we're correct. In fact, we're most of the time wrong. And Sanderson bowls a full toss wide of the off stump. Now, if Milan had left that one alone, it would have probably been called wide ball, but instead he picks out the fielder at extra cover. The fumble allows them through for the single. They probably would have run regardless. And Milan to 91. He's not going to have that personal milestone in mind. He's just going to be thinking boundaries. As Hammond, with a bit of a free hit here, final ball of the 19th. He's on 22. And guides the ball towards extra cover. Doesn't beat that fielder. It's right on the edge of the inner ring. And 1 over to go in this innings. And David Milan find those sacred 9 runs. He's been out there the whole innings so far for Gloucestershire. And to come back from that calf injury to then spend 1 hour and 15 minutes out in the middle, he'll be grateful we're not still having the weather conditions from the heat wave last week.
No, I think, and just to pick up, George Scrimshaw's going to bowl the last over, by the way. That was one of the things that the club did say, that although the weather was great for the Women's World Cup, you could almost say, because quite a few of the tickets were given away to local schools, some of the schools decided not to come because of the heat, and you could absolutely know why that was. So, 173 for 2, last over, Scrimshaw to bowl it. And Hammond goes over the top and he'll pick up 4. Fielder's on the offside inside the circle. And that's the shorter boundary up there. So Hammond, although he did really struggle in his first 10 or 15 deliveries to get a measure of this pitch, maybe now at the end of it, he's now well up to a strike rate beyond 100. Scrimshaw to bowl to him. That's off the inside half of the bat. He might want 2. And Milan's going to push him. And he will get 2. And Gloucestershire up almost towards that darts maximum.
If Milan gets back on strike and does get to those 3 figures, it would be the first ton for a Gloucestershire T20 player since 2019.
Scrimshaw again to Hammond, and he's not really going to run there. He tries to again pull that into the leg side, but hits him up on the body.
That was Klinger against Kent.
I was going to say that's
102 not out.
It's got to be a Michael innings. Just had such a canny knack of pacing a knock. Not necessarily starting quickly either. I mean, I'm sure you can think of other people who just know how they're going to get to the end of the innings. Just managing things. Hammond has gone very, very high. Is it up? Could drop safe within about 4 fielders, and it has, and they've come back for 2. It's dropped right on the edge of the circle on the leg side, where an orthodox mid-on might be. It's gone so far up that 4 players, including the bowler, have failed to get to it, and Hammond's picked up 2. 2 balls to go. I think Milan's going to be stranded short of his 100.
It's the kind of thing as a fielder where you find yourself muttering under your breath in disappointment that luck's not gone your way, and it hasn't on a few occasions here for the Steelbacks.
Hammond, last ball, but 1. He skewed that away. That could be caught, and it's not. It's dropped. I was going to say it was going to be held, but they've come back for 2 more, and Hammond is going to end up facing every ball of this last over.
3 drops.
Really off the top edge, down towards.
None of these drops from Northants have been simple chances, but they have all been chances which the Steelbacks would have backed themselves to take.
So unless it's a no ball, Hammond to face the last ball from Scrimshaw. And they're going to try and run a single, which they do. Milan is limping a bit, but he's going to go off with 91 against his name. and he's played a massive role here. And Hammond, having struggled initially, has finished up getting 33 not out, so finishing on the same score as Liam Scott, and 184 for 2 with 11 off the last over. He's going to push the league leaders. Northampton have, I say, they've chased more than this to win. Gloucestershire are depleted bowling wise. Spin will be important, no question about that. But overall thoughts, Melissa, on particularly on how Milan is batting.
Yeah, the 7th highest score Milan's by any Gloss player in a T20. It's got a modest celebration to the crowd, whether that's a sign of any underlying frustration around the way this calf may have just held him back towards. But I think the contribution he's made there is, we've banged on about it, is investing in an innings. And when you look at this Northants batting lineup, they've got plenty of players who would be prepared to put their hand up in this run chase and go, well, I'll be that player people can bat around. And the key thing in a chase as well being that, you don't want to leave it till the final over at all. And Northamptonshire are going to look at this and look at that required run rate and think, well, how can we chase this down with 2 overs to spare? Because it's never easy chasing over 9s, but we've seen them chase over 200 in this competition already. They know how to do it. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a really good contest in the second half.
Just give you the card before perhaps you have a break to go and put the kettle on, and we'll be back with you in about a little over 10 minutes. But Gloucestershire winning the toss, batting first. Jack Taylor said it's a used pitch. It might get more difficult to read later on. Short, caught by Scrimshaw off Sales for 16. He and Milan open the innings. Milan carried his bat for an unbeaten 91 off 55 balls with 4 sixes and 6 fours. Liam Scott batting at 3 made 33 before he was caught by McSweeney off Harrison on his home debut, and Hammond then made 33 not out with 2 late sixes helping his contribution. The Northants bowling figures: Kimber 3 overs for 23, Sanderson 4 overs for 32, Willie 4 overs for 31, Sales 4 overs 1 for 45, Calvin Harrison 3 overs for 29, and I'm on my kit, and Scrimshaw 2 overs for 21. Gloucestershire have got a defendable score, you would feel. Can they do it though against a team who have scored bucket loads of runs in this competition so far? We'll be back with you in about 6 or 7 minutes for the resumption here at Bristol. Lovely sunny evening. England have won in the World Cup. Can Gloucestershire back that up with a 6th win here in the T20? Join us again shortly.
Thanks for your support so far tonight. England won. Will Gloucestershire win as well? They've set table topping Northampton 155 to win from 120 balls. But the big question is, who's going to win the apple race? Because it's time for the Thatcher's apple race out on the outfield. In front of the mound stand, slightly change of scenery for this one. In front of a big crowd as well. So let's introduce the two teams. Starting on this near side, you can see the pink t-shirts. That's Joe Tucker, representing Cox and Keeling. His friend Alex, from Grimsby and London, respectively. Very exotic. And then on the further side, we've got the team called the Shopping Channel. We might need clarification on why that's their team name, but they're from Bath and North East Somerset. They've got heritage in Brighton as well, apparently. So the team is Alistair in the black t-shirt, and we've got Paul Tucker, another Tucker. A remarkable moment a second ago when the two contestants realised that they share the same surname. So we might look into the family histories there. Right, here we go. The two teams are ready. We've got Joe to start against Paul. You have to push the inflatable apple around our cricketers at the far end and back, and then it's a relay race. Your fellow contestant goes to win and gets the batter's goal in 3, 2, 1. Let's go! Ooh, okay. Joe's taking a slightly wayward approach there. Try and stay in the boundary, please. Good turn, let's see. Don't take out our cricketers. One of the hazards of the job, they don't get paid. Oh, dear, the wind's taken that one from Joe. A recovery mission is needed there. Hands in head to Alex. Loving the glove stamp theme. Here comes Alistair. That's a good changer. That was smooth. Joe, come on. You've got to factor in the wind. Very good. No pulling in the apple, please, Alex. We don't like to see that. Let's keep it clean. Let's keep it legal. Oh, it looks like the Shopping Channel. We're going to cruise home, but no. Alistair's taking a bit of a detour there, but he's back on course now. He's got momentum. Come on, Alistair. There it is. There it is. Well done. Yep, you got it. Don't worry, don't take me out. Many congratulations. Let's get you in, Alistair and Paul. Big hugs all around. Oh, nice, nice. That obviously meant a lot. Well done, well done. Alistair, many congratulations. First of all, why the Shopping Channel? And bear in mind, this is the family audience. So our wives don't question the WhatsApp group. Okay, you're absolutely gone, aren't you? Yeah, done, yeah. All right. What about you, Paul? You enjoy that?
Lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting. What this proves is age doesn't matter, does it? If you've got it, you've got it.
We've don't got it. Well done, guys. Many congratulations. You won a case of Factor's Gold. We'll be sorting out your prize very shortly. Tonight's winner is the Shopping Channel. Sporting round of applause from Cox and Keeling. Well done, well done. Okay, let's get behind the boys. Gloucestershire have set Northamptonshire Steelbacks 185 to win. Keep the noise coming. Let's get them over the line. Please welcome back match umpires Ben Heverall and Ian Blackwell. by Captain Jack Taylor. Please welcome your glorious Gloucestershire.
Bob Scanlon announcing the return of the players to the arena for the Northamptonshire innings. Just to keep you up to date with what's happening elsewhere tonight, in the international, India made 189 for 7, having won the toss against England, and they're batting up at Chesterley Street. Warwickshire, the only side in Gloucestershire's group playing tonight. They made 198 for 3 against Sussex. Sam Hain made 68. And Gloucestershire's cross-pool match, of course, is against Surrey. That's on Saturday. And half centuries for Jason Roy, Josh Philippe and Ollie Pope in 240 for 4, which they made against Essex. So Northants need 185 at a touch over 9 and over. Just looking to see if David Milan is out in the field.
Steelbacks have been sent 185 to win from 120 balls at 9.25 runs per over.
Joe Phillips is at deep square.
Yeah,
So I would not be surprised if Milan is not out there.
I think if he was out there, he would have been safely perched in first or second slip. But as you say, having not played for a long time and then been out there the whole innings for Gloucestershire, I'm sure he's enjoying having his feet up in the dugout now.
So Will Williams is going to open for Gloucestershire from the Ashley Down Road end. And that's played by Vasconcelos, the left-hander, up to mid-off, fielded by Hammond and no run. So Vasconcelos and McSweeney, the opening pair for Northants. McSweeney has been batting at 3, but with Chris Lynn not available tonight, he's pushed up to open. Williams, that familiar push off at the start of his run, and that's crashed away off the bottom of the bat. That will go away for 4, down through probably where a wide gully would have been, and into the boards in front of the club offices, and Northamptonshire away with a boundary.
Similar to Sanderson, Williams not express pace, so he will have to be disciplined here with that new ball on that occasion. Too much width to the left-hander, and with the fielders he's got out at deep square, deep point, you'd be expecting that straighter, hard-hitting length.
Williams hadn't played a T20 game for more than 4 years until last Friday when he played at Taunton. That's worked away again from Vasconcelos. A long chase out towards the rope, and a good chase too from Scott. They'll come back for 3, and his throw just forces Vasconcelos to hurry to make his ground at the non-striker's end. One or two light coats around amongst the crowd, but really it's a very pleasant evening for watching.
This is the deceptive part of the evening, though, where you think you're fine and then realise you should have packed 4 more layers.
McSweeney waits for Will Williams from the Ashley Down Road end. That's very straight. It's worked onto the leg side. Chase for Phillips, who's now fielding as substitute for Milan, and they've come back for 2.
Either Phillips here will be thinking you've got a bit of a tough gig, not getting to bat and now having to go field for 20 overs, or he'll absolutely be loving this opportunity to get out there in the field. He's such a good fielder on the boundary in particular as well, really quick across the outfield. So any opportunity, I suspect it will be the latter, to make an impact on his team getting over the line today. He'll be keen to supply.
Slip has been taken out. Sweeney forces that straight to Jack Taylor at short extra. Briefly spoke to Jack on the way in today. Obviously he did play at Taunton, having not fielded at Worcester in the second innings and batted with a runner. And whatever the injury is, he said it's just a question of managing it, and he feels as if he's moving more freely now than he was. Williams again, that's down the leg side. That will go, I think, all the way for 6. He's picked that up well as McSweeney, and he's cleared the rope in the same spot as the boundary earlier in the season, earlier in the over. So an expensive start for Will Williams, who bowled really economically down at Taunton, but Northamptonshire, you don't need to be given a leg up with an over at the start, which sees them take 15 off the first within the power play. It looks as if Scott will share the new ball from this pavilion end. First sighting live of him.
McSweeney with the highest T20 score this season of 53 in that game against Gloucestershire at Northampton. And for Vasconcelos, 44, his highest in the Steelbacks' last game against Essex. And Scott will come into the left-handed Vasconcelos. Presents the full face of the bat in a striking drive to Delanger at extra cover. A player who, if I was batting, would probably want Delanger as far away from the bat as possible, because he'll be having a little bit of a word in there, you can imagine.
But he's so polite.
He's the loveliest man, but incredibly chatty. In the best way. And Scott with a deep backward point, deep square, but wide outside the off stump and chopped down by Vasconcelos, probably saving Scott there from having to re-bowl that one.
The resemblance to Bo Webster is even more striking with him bowling. You know, that very sort of how can you put it? The way he walks, the way he sort of just carries himself, and the fact that he's almost as tall as Webster.
On the up, driving past the fielder who leaped to his right in the ring. It's going to trick away tantalisingly for 4. And Scott there bowling a better line. It's a well-struck shot, but certainly we'll be hearing a few words now from that inner ring on the offside that there's going to be opportunities coming. Perhaps they grow them in labs out there in Australia. That's why they all look similar. That's why they've got so many good players. Scott angled in at the pads on this occasion. And they're going to scamper through for a quick single. So after the first over was expensive from Will Williams, so far Scott responding well. And I do think for the Steelbacks, because they've had some successful power plays across this competition, that they'll want to get off on a positive step. Think how they can put pressure on the Gloucestershire bowlers, and Jack Taylor as captain as well, to go from what would be his plan A to plan B. Scott this time has picked up, and that will bring another boundary. The crowd responds with silence here at Bristol, because a similar story to Scott's first over against Somerset the other day down in Taunton. Just not quite getting his lines right, with that bit of extra pace on the ball. You've got such a low margin of error. It's got to be encouraging the Steelbacks openers to hit to those 2 sweepers. This time, better length, mistimed, but enough to pick up 2 runs. And the intent shown by the Steelbacks openers in getting that second run already, probably better than what we saw from the Gloucestershire opening pair, who opted to run through for singles in a bit more of a leisurely manner. But actually, you mentioned that, you know, in that this could be a game won with 2s.
Just the way they've started sent me back to one of the one-day games last year. It might have been the Hampshire game, right at the end of the group, where Hampshire were chasing something like, well, I want to say just over 300, and Ali Orr and his partner, who I can't remember, I think got 90 in the power play, and it just set them up for a very comfortable chase. Gloucester got a little bit careful here. Delanger in, and Vasconcelos can't get that away. And you quoted a figure from one of Northampton's power plays earlier in the campaign, which was 85. They put something like, well, even they put a say a 60 together here, and they will feel they're right in control of this chase. De Lange to Vasconcelos, who moves across, tries to play the little scoop down the leg side, doesn't make contact, and it's a dot ball.
I think De Lange is so crucial in the makeup of this T20 side for Gloucestershire, because with the the omission of David Payne, of Matt Taylor in this lineup as well, and you ran through at the beginning of this game that the list of injured players Gloucestershire have. When you look at the bowling lineup and the inexperience.
De Lange in, chopped away by Vasconcelos. He'll get at least one. Van Beeren's on the chase round, and he scuttles to get the ball with a tumbling stop, and they'll come back for 2.
From a pace perspective, yes, you've got Liam Scott as an overseas player to come in and show what he can do, which he's done in franchise leagues before. But Daz Ahmed with his medium seam bowling as well. He's fresh in his career. Will Williams, even though he's an experienced campaigner, you mentioned, doesn't have that much T20 experience. So De Lange here, really crucial cog.
Vasconcelos waits for De Lange again. Same area of the outfield, away on the offside, behind square this time. More work for Van Beeren, who of course himself has been used in the power play by Gloucestershire, often in the first couple of overs, but not recently. Williams just loosening up again, because he might be changing ends. But De Lange to McSweeney. That's full. Can't get that away, and goes straight to Darcy Short at short extra. So 4 inside the circle on the offside, 3 on the leg side, and the, don't say, almost the standard 2 fielders out. But backward pointed for McSweeney, actually behind point really, and at deep square. De Lange powers in again and can't stop a push for a single. He was certainly stretching to try and deflect that onto the stumps with his boot, but De Lange, who has had his fair share of injury troubles himself, as we know, just gives, he got up all right. Hopefully that's not caused him any discomfort. And Northamptonshire, with the 2 openers still together after the opening 3 overs, and a change at this Bristol Pavilion. And Scott's bowled 1 over, and he's going to be replaced by Will Williams. 30 for no wicket off 3. Just to give you a comparison, at the end of the power play, the 6 overs, Gloucestershire were 44 for 1. So Northampton, aware they couldn't hang about, have got out of the traps pretty quickly.
Williams then 15 off his first over to an advancing McSweeney. He doesn't get all of it off the toe of the bat, but finds the gap, and you can see the encouragement from Gloucestershire's captain Jack Taylor, as if saying, just keep it calm here, because you know that power plays can swing away from you as a team, and certainly teams can get off to a flyer as well. But the crucial thing to do is to not forget the length of a T20 innings and the way that teams are able to pull things back, especially with the spin options Gloucestershire have in this lineup today. As full from Williams, and doesn't get it past sprawling Hammond at mid-off. It's funny, in that last over, De Lange spends so much time on the ground in his follow-through. He's probably up there with De Lange and Lauren Filer, I would say, of players who are a bit like Bambi in their follow-through. But I must say that the position he got into in that last over was a position I'm not sure Marchant himself would have known he could get into.
Almost like doing the splits, wasn't it? Almost.
And he would rank quite low on my list of Gloucestershire players I think could do the splits. As Williams follows Vasconcelos, striking him on the boot, the ball ballooning to short third. No run to be taken. This is better from Williams, who it almost feels in this over has adapted quicker to the reality of T20 cricket, being that you can't bowl your stock ball on most surfaces and against most openers who are in form like this and are part of a classy lineup. You do have to mix up your lengths. As he goes fuller, and I was going to say this again, won't find a run. In fact, finds the single, because taking that top hand or bottom hand off the bat there meant he couldn't quite get the elevation or timing he was looking for. And Williams, apart from that four off the first ball, which wasn't necessarily a bad delivery, just a good bit of placement by McSweeney, has pulled things back nicely. Both fielders out on the leg side, but he goes over the keeper. One bounce for McSweeney. Racing along here for the Steelbacks, 24 off just 10 balls. Exactly the start they would have wanted, and making a sizable dent in this run chase.
You can see why they've had such a steamroller of a start in this competition. 7 wins from 7. And Jack Taylor giving a signal to one of his other bowlers to get ready from the far end.
Final ball of the fourth, whipped away wristily towards deep backward square. Darawal fields. Just the one. So after 4, the Steelbacks well on track here. Currently going along at run rate above 10. From the offset, they needed just above 9. I suspect after this over from De Lange, I'd like to see some spin introduced, because they've got the options of Jack Taylor, Darcy Short, and of course Graham Van Buren, who I think would be that power play option if they wanted to get one from him.
On that Manhattan screen that was just on your device a moment ago, I'll come back to that in a minute. De Lange in, that's pulled away into the vacant space, and in fact it wouldn't have mattered if they'd been fielding on the boundary anyway. It's gone all the way for 6 to cow corner from Nathan McSweeney. It wasn't that short, but got into position very quickly. And 6 more to the Northants total. Yeah, that Manhattan screen, the 2 cheapos were both bowled by David Woolley later on in the Northants innings, and then the expensive ones the last 3. De Lange again to McSweeney, that's Fuller, and he won't get a single there as it's played up to Jack Taylor at mid-on. Bit of thinking for the skipper to do here. It's proved a wicket where, or a pitch where wickets have been hard to come by. Almost the opposite of what we've seen in some of the T20s here at Bristol this season. De Lange goes straight once again, but there's a partial stop by Milan, who is now out on the field and fielding at short fine leg on the edge of the circle.
Somewhat being hidden, I would suggest, at fine leg there, and probably wouldn't have liked the ball flying at him off that low full toss from De Lange. You've got to have such good anticipation in fielding at those positions.
I think it's a Vasconcelos, so he tried to go for the paddle and didn't make contact with it. But this is the 5th over, because Gloucestershire started from the Ashley Down Road end. And remember, at the end of Gloucestershire's own power play, they were 44 for 1. So Northants have got an over in hand. And come back to what Melissa said earlier, you think about trying to win the game in 18 or 19. Knowing there's a bit of an insurance policy of the last over, and De Lange keeps Vasconcelos down to a single with another attempted swat away into the leg side. Hammond pats him on the back and gives him a few words of encouragement as the big South African walks back to his mark.
And it's been a fantastic comeback for De Lange. I don't want to jinx it, but to be hit for 6 in the first ball of the over, it sits in the back of your mind as you're running into bowl every single delivery afterwards. But he's done well just to concede the 2 runs.
Can he get out of the over with a dot? He can. So an over that promised more for Northants actually ends up not too bad for Gloucestershire, just 8 from it. So they've got to, seems an obvious thing to say, they're not going to go spin in the power play.
I get it would have been a risky move. I think you often see that if you introduce a new bowler to bowl the sixth, that it will go the distance. So actually making the most of their seam options in the power play, I can then imagine we'll be seeing the introduction of spin shortly afterwards.
So the middle overs could be dominated by the slower bowlers. Whether they will literally dominate the scoreboard is a different matter.
Vasconcelos then facing up to Scott. And gets that one over the inner ring, away for 4 runs. And whilst he backed away into the leg side, Scott hung the ball outside the off stump for him. Impressive from Vasconcelos to get that elevation to get the ball away for 4 runs. Made it look pretty effortless, really. And the 50 partnership up for this opening pair. McSweeney contributing 32 of those runs. Vasconcelos 21. McSweeney in the previous game between these two sides scoring 53 off 36 balls before he was bowled by Ollie Price. This time goes over mid-off. It was full again from Scott. Pace taken off it. And with mid-off up inside the ring, it was a relatively risk-free shot. And that hum of the crowd here at Bristol just gets a little bit quieter as they see their team hit. Really under the pump, and you mentioned a lot for the captain to think about. Jack Taylor's mind here is going to be swimming with solutions in how to break this partnership. Vasconcelos. Crouch stance. It's a low full toss, hammered back past Scott, almost wiping out the umpire there, Ian Blackwell. Goes away for 4 runs, so 3 deliveries in this over, 3 boundaries, and exactly the opposite of what Gloucestershire would have wanted. But from a Steelbacks perspective, they're doing everything they would have set out to achieve in this power play.
Yeah, they're doing it against the most experienced of Gloucestershire's quicker bowlers. Daz Ahmed, a rookie, really, in this company.
Scott this time gets through as Vasconcelos slightly more ambitious with that shot. Can get overexcited as a batter, clearing the boundary 3 consecutive occasions and thinking, sure, there's a record somewhere which could be broken.
Well, there could be somewhere around about 20 runs ahead at the end of the power play, and so that feels like it's got to be 2 or 3 wickets quite quickly for Gloucestershire to get some kind of parity back in the game.
Scott beats the edge again. Vasconcelos, he's frustrated here after timing those first 3 shots so beautifully, losing his shape ever so slightly. Scott's tightened his line as well. And just on that, we had that period of deceleration as well when Miles Hammond first came to the crease for Gloucestershire, and David Milan was struggling to find the boundary, which needs to be accounted for as well, because the runs missed out before they finally found their footing again towards the end of the innings. Northamptonshire have an advantage over Gloucestershire at the moment. Whipped away, out towards Hammond. Deep mid-wicket, end of the over. So the end of the power play, 62 without loss for the Steelbacks. They'll be delighted with the start they've got off to, chasing down this total.
There's the graph to show you that really fast start, and the DLS, not that it's going to have any kind of role to play tonight because of the weather, but Northants ought to be on 43 according to DLS at the moment, and the fact they're on 62 shows the advantage that they have. But it feels like they're 2 overs ahead in the game, to come back to your point, Melissa. So for the first time in this innings, with James Bracey standing up and outside the power play, we're going to see Daz Ahmed. It's just punched away by Vasconcelos, coolly into the offside. Van Buren comes off the rope to field, and he and Will Williams are going to be the boundary riders on the leg side for McSweeney. And these two have almost neck up on the board, but McSweeney's had less of the strike. Ahmed switching to over the wicket to the right-hander. Punched away to Cameron Darawal, who's got a great arm out on the boundary at deep cover. They just take one.
Yeah, it's brilliant to see Daz Ahmed in this T20 side after making his first appearance against Somerset in Gloucestershire's previous game. I play at the same club in Bristol as Daz at Golden Hill.
Ahmed again. And he worked away by Vasconcelos. Has to run round the bowler. But he'll come back. He won't come back for a second run. It's good work again. This time from Hammond. Keeps them down to a single. I mean, Northants batting line to follow these two. Calvin Harrison, David Willey, Justin Broad, Saif Zaib. That's a pretty strong top six.
Saif Zaib at number 6 feels incredibly ominous, in fact.
McManus waits for Ahmed. It didn't appear quite so easy to read, but again, it's a single up to Darcy Short, who's on the boundary at long on. And Northants can push the ball around for 3 or 4 overs at 6 and over. They're provided they don't have these two split up, that's not exactly a big problem for them. Ahmed, slower ball, almost a full toss, which he hit out to Short, who's moved round now this time to long off.
I think there would be plenty of consensus that Daz Ahmed has worked really hard to get this spot in this Gloucestershire team, consistent performances at a club level, and now being called on for a crucial role with that experience lacking owing to Gloucestershire's injuries to bowl in these middle overs with those variations.
Ahmed again, and forced away by McSweeney on the offside. Long chase for Cameron Darawal round the boundary. He's hauled it in, and he'll save 2 because McSweeney says he'll settle for just a couple at the end of the over. So 69 for no wicket off 7. Their advantage retained, and Northants at the moment proceeding quite serenely towards this total. Gloucestershire need a wicket, and preferably more than one. And if Jack Taylor has needed one so far in this tournament, he's often turned to the wrist spin of Darcy Shaw. As much as anything else, I think, Melissa, because apart from Jake Lintott at Kent, obviously he's a Warwickshire player by his parent club, he's on loan at Kent at the minute, he's the only bowler of this type in the competition.
He's got 7 wickets in this year's Blast and has often been that golden arm for Gloucestershire. They'll be hoping for a breakthrough here as he beats the outside edge, and Bracey couldn't resist himself there and just removing one of the bails as a reminder to Vasconcelos that he'll have him if he leaves his ground. Reverse sweep straight to the fielder, and they get through for the run. Vasconcelos having to really get his skates on there to get back safely. And you imagine here, I mean, whilst that was a good first over from Daz Ahmed, none of the seamers have looked too likely to take a wicket. So it does feel as if spin hit in these middle overs will be crucial. Although on this occasion opens up the leg side, and McSweeney making it look all too easy out there. Uses the pace of the delivery. And all you really need is a tickle. Running down towards the flats, the ball absolutely flies away. We've seen Gloucestershire here opt to have both a short third and short fine leg. So there's a huge gap open at mid-wicket where that extra fielder would otherwise be, and that's exactly where McSweeney goes. Hitting it almost too well there to Hammond, meaning they'll just get the run, the 1 run.
That was a definition of an ugly shot. Effective but ugly.
One where you hope you'll get a few more runs so that one doesn't make the highlights package. Short. Gives this one some air. squeezed out towards Darawal on the boundary. That time of the evening as well, where a few of the more ambitious seagulls start swooping down on those who have tucked into the food and drink vans to our left. Maybe a few leftover chips. Picked up on the pull and perfectly bisecting the fielders on the boundary. And McSweeney continues to power on, 41. In fact, 45 now, I should say, he moves to, and it's felt like a relatively risk-free innings because he's hit the bad ball, and there were a few of those in the power play, just completely the wrong line to the right-hander, and then now actually that perfect placement of the final ball. Oh, short's over.
Started needing 9 and over, and here they are going at 10s. And as you can see, the ref of the rate has very slightly dropped. But still, the first 2 batters are together. That's the big thing for Northamptonshire, is that they've got 2 men in, and Milan proved that you can bat through. Here is Ahmed to bowl his second over. Pulled in the air by Vasconcelos. Is that going to drop safe? Hammond's underneath it. Oh, and he spilled it. Normally the safest of fielders in the deep. And Miles Hammond, Vasconcelos has hammered that high into the air. Hammond coming in, got himself set, and then it bounced out all a bit too hard, and he's put his hands on his head as he walks away.
And you felt
big chance missed.
Ahmed deserved that wicket as well, the way he operated in his first over. Set it up, hitting towards one of those larger pockets of the ground was Vasconcelos, and it's a 4th drop of the evening across these 2 teams.
Ahmed again into McSweeney, who goes down the ground too long on to Darcy Short. Just a single.
Which is remarkable when you think we only lost the 2 wickets in the first innings, and we spoke about how it's tough for bowlers out there, but actually if they were backed up by their fielders, we would have seen, you know, potentially 4 more wickets across the evening. I'm not sure what's in the air this evening.
Ahmed looking for that breakthrough for a second time, and Jack Taylor thinks that he's got Vasconcelos out. He's staying, and to me, I thought that dropped short.
See, I thought that was out.
Let's have a look.
Oh, that's going to be a tough call for the umpire.
He doesn't, the umpires, I don't think, know. And I suspect that will be given. Well, James can show us that again. You got another chance to have a look at it. And there's a discussion with Jack Taylor. Well, he clearly thought it was out, but umpire Ian Blackwell, standing at square leg on the opposite side of the square. I mean, Taylor's almost on that cut strip. Maybe it wasn't easy for him to tell whether that was taken on the full or not. Not a bump ball. Looks short to me, I must say. Now, Bracey will say this time, and they'll appeal for a catch down the leg side, and he has got. So Ahmed's got his wicket in the end, and Vasconcelos is out. The ball after he might have been given out. But umpire Peverell this time has no doubt.
Ricardo Vasconcelos was caught by James Bracey.
It's a really good take from Bracey there, up to the stumps. It's never easy. That back of a length delivery, he was obstructed by Vasconcelos as well. The ball going through him, and that immediate celebration, probably what Gloucestershire would have needed, that previous delivery when it was really Jack Taylor in lone celebration of that catch he thought he had taken. In the end, not costly for Gloucestershire. And they'll be relieved to have just finally got that first breakthrough. Bringing you batter in David Willey. Probably not the man you'd want to see walking out to the middle, with Calvin Harrison carded to come in at number 3. So there's been a slight movement in the batting order, Willey moving up that space. And I just wonder here whether it's that assessment of the surfaces, the fact you said, Ian, that The Steelbacks here don't need to go out all guns blazing, really. They can afford to just knock the ball around now because of the head start they've had. But, you know, David Willey here might be thinking there's an opportunity for a cameo. If he can get a quick 30, 40 and get his team really far ahead, then people can bat around that. So I'm intrigued to know how he's going to go about this innings. I suspect it'll probably be the former, and he'll give himself a bit of time to really cash in here.
This is the 9th over, but I think Ahmed has done enough to justify not only his selection but also this role in the team here. He's had a chance dropped. He's had a wicket, in inverted commas, chalked out by the umpires, who felt the ball wasn't taken on the full by Jack Taylor. The catch wasn't taken on the full, and now he's got a wicket. I'll give you an update on the international between India and England at the end of the over, which may surprise you. Ahmed then to McSweeney. Full, very full in fact, and fired out 2 bounties to Cameron Darawal. But a generous round of applause for Daz Ahmed at the end of that over. He's got his first wicket, and the India-England T20 match at Chester Street has been abandoned with no result after the Indian innings. My screen doesn't say rain.
It was rain and deemed not enough time for the conditions and the pitch to be cleared. So, I mean, interesting there. But actually, I've got an eye on Chelmsford here, because you mentioned Surrey after hitting 240 for 4 off their 20 overs. Essex in reply are 105 for 2 off 8. So, slightly different surface at Chelmsford to here at Bristol, as Van Buren shout for leg before his first ball. The ball trickles towards short fine leg. A fumble from Daz Ahmed there allows the Steelbacks through for a single.
If there's a short boundary on one side for that game.
It's short boundaries on all sides at Chelmsford, isn't it? I've seen the ball hit into many a flat at Chelmsford before, which of course we have seen here at the Bristol County Ground as well. Plenty of people on their balconies opposite us now watching the game. Van Buren, Fuller driven out towards Hammond, who's at a wide long off. It'll just be the single, and a real opportunity now with Gloucestershire spinners and Daz Ahmed to operate in these middle overs. They'll be looking to pick up a few more wickets, but you get that through pressure and starving the Steelbacks of boundaries, as he does again now with a single out to Liam Scott.
Ahmed's 2 overs only cost 11, and obviously he has the wicket as well, so credit to him.
Flatter leading edge goes towards Taylor at extra cover.
I mean, Graham had a very long bowl in the Championship up at Worcester, so there's no excuse for not having a decent rhythm, but this is a different situation.
Maybe a bit of an achy shoulder as this one, a low full toss on the pads, clipped out towards Scott for 1. Good over so far from Van Buren, who, I mean, carrying drinks at the start of this tournament for a Gloucestershire side, which was packed with options, of course, having Ollie Price at the top of the order and offering that off-spin option. Not in the side today, owing to that recurring hand injury. Delivery in the block hole to finish off by Van Buren. So halfway stage, 88 for 1, 97 required from 60. The key thing for the Steelbacks there being the wickets in hand, depth of their batting lineup as well, with Lewis McManus carded to come in at number 8. It's a threatening lineup, but even if they keep going here, just 1 down, it's all about pacing the chase.
So here's a bold move. Ahmed's bowled 2 overs for 11. Gloucestershire have checked the run rate to a point where the halfway scores 87 for 1 v 88 for 1, almost now nothing in it again. And interestingly, Taylor has decided to bring back Liam Scott. So here he is, bowling to David Willey, and he fields the first ball off his own bowling. So this must be a deliberate ploy against David Willey, you would think.
I think they'll want to keep it from being spin at both ends as well, just to make sure that the Steelbacks batters don't settle into that slower pace for now. They know they can chop and change the bowling options, as there's plenty of all-rounders in this side. And Scott here just got to do what Daz Ahmed did, keep his line tight of the field spread.
That is short, and Willie's hooked that, and that's gone all the way for 6. I'll say hook, he's pulled it really. It was short, it was leg stump maybe just outside. He's just helped it on its way. And that's not the longest boundary to that side of the ground either. So 6 fairly comfortable runs really, and Northants.
It's that power play length he's almost bowling, which he can afford to bowl a bit fuller now. He's got long on, long off back, pitching it up like we saw from Ahmed.
Willie in the air. Is there a fielder out there? There he is, but it won't be taken by Darrell. Had ground to make up. Didn't get anywhere near taking it really. 2 fielders on the rope.
I suspect there was a bit of a miscommunication there actually from Hammond and Darrell, because whilst it was well placed, neither of them went for it with that emboldened dive towards the ball, and you feel that maybe in that hesitation to avoid colliding on the boundary, one of them needed to go for it, put a name on it.
Scott. Bolster Willie, who fires that up to wide long off for just 1 run.
And that's all he's got to do here, Scott. You know, I said to aim for that fuller length where you can keep the game more within your control. If you're going to push that back 4 back as well, it feels as if players haven't really been able to get on top of the ball down the ground. The big shots we saw in the Gloucestershire innings were more square where the ball was shorter.
Scott again steered, this time over the inner ring by McSweeney, who will go to his 50 off only 27 balls, and
50 for Nathan McSweeney.
pushed up the order tonight with Chris Lynn not playing, and 2 6s and 6 4s for him in his half century. Very important knock for his side.
Again, too much width there from Scott, who just hasn't been able to get through the over in terms of those consistent lines he needs to be bowling.
Slashed away. Once more, more work for Darrell. They're going to come back for 2. And he's got a good arm. That's good running from this Northants pair. Scott has been expensive tonight.
Just the 2 more.
And there's enough options within this Gloucestershire lineup that you would argue he doesn't need to come back into the attack now. And I think Jack Taylor gave him that chance coming back for this 3rd over. And actually, whilst the plan was relatively simple, as illustrated by Daz Ahmed and illustrated by a lot of the Steelbacks bowlers in their mid-overs as well, of just keeping the ball on one side of the pitch. It's the first thing you've got to do. It makes the captain's life so much easier. And he didn't offer that sense of control. So with Van Buren at the pavilion end, I'd like to see Jack Taylor either explore with himself or Darcy Short as Van Buren fires that one wide, essentially anticipating the approach of David Willey, who in the end stood his ground. This time it's in the arc though, and that is big. All the way over the temporary stand. And it's bouncing towards the shed bar. That is a pretty big blow there.
That's probably the furthest the ball has been hit tonight by anybody. And I mentioned before play started, but he's just signed he's 36 now. He's just signed a new 3-year contract at Northants, and you can see his value in this short form of the game.
Yeah, Van Buren. Full outside the off stump. Slashed away out towards Darrell. In front of the mound stand. Just for 1. Van Buren here is going to be hesitant to stray into that swinging arc of the left-handed Willie, who comes down to have a word with McSweeney. Give the man on 54 a few pointers. And so Van Buren gets a leading edge from McSweeney. Flies out into the covers. It's cut off by Jack Taylor at extra. He's going to run in now and have a word with Van Buren as he runs past him. Moving over to the left-hander's field. Willie has a quick glance at that same area. He'd hit that 6. Goes again. Van Buren saw him coming. Fired that one in faster. And it's a good battle of experience here between two players who have been on this T20 circuit for a long time. Van Buren with 2 more balls to get through. Bowls a wide delivery and Willie jamming his bat down on it. If he'd let that one go, it probably would have been another wide ball signalled. Instead, it's a dot ball. And as we saw from De Lange in the power play, who got hit for 6 off his first ball and recovered his over, Van Buren is going to do the same here. Wide, then a 6 at the start of the over. But after that, he's used his boundary ride as well. And after 12 overs, 114 for 4. The Steelbacks need 71 off 48 balls. But still,
whose
crucial.
dressing room would you rather be in at the moment?
I mean, the Steelbacks. I just think that those 2 overs of control that Gloucestershire managed to piece together, even 3 with Daz Ahmed, were lost with, unfortunately, that over from Liam Scott. And now, I think it needed probably a bit more bold captaincy in that moment. Could they have kept Daz Ahmed going? Does he have a role to play later on at death? Because, of course, in terms of death bowlers for Gloucestershire, when you've got no Matt Taylor in this side today as well, you are looking largely towards Marshall De Lange.
So De Lange's coming back again. So Jack Taylor is using up his seam bowling options very early here to try and get some kind of control. He's having to gamble. De Lange in down the leg side and signals are wide. Yeah, I mean, that's just, as a captain, what you don't want to do. So Scott has already bowled 3 overs. He probably won't bowl again. Williams has bowled 2 quite expensively. De Lange's bowled 2 quite economically, but he's had to bring him back here to try and split these 2 up.
So who are your bowlers at the death? Really? It's going to be spinners.
And therein is the problem. De Lange short. Oh, it's calls are wide. De Lange's asking about a catch off the glove. Bracey can't believe it, but umpire Peverell says no, he's going to call that as a wide anyway. Got Bracey's hands on his head in disbelief.
2 of the more emotive players for Gloucestershire, and James Bracey and Marshall De Lange.
De Lange said something to umpire Peverell there because he's, well, there has been a conversation. I don't think it's all one way. I think you could, it's enough there to suggest that Bracey might have heard something. De Lange in once more, off the edge of McSweeney's bat, down to Daz Ahmed, 3rd man for 1.
And just on this rotation of bowlers as well, you can sense from Jack Taylor that he sees this as a crunch moment actually, and is there any point in holding back your seamers for the end of the game when it may not go that deep? And so by trying to find that wicket now with his seam bowlers, will that open up the game at a later stage? But then that responsibility, that onus is on the spin bowlers, and that's going to be a really hard task.
De Lange to Willie. Oh, tennis ball bounce. He's got something on it, and it's gone over the top of James Bracey, and it's raced away for 4.
Well, he definitely hit that one, and the most frustrating thing is a big, fast bowler in De Lange bowling a good bouncer. All you need is a bit of a tickle, suddenly rubbing salt in the wounds of the big South African pace bowler who was convinced earlier on in this over he had a wicket. In fact, he's only bowled the 2 legal deliveries, and it's not exactly a short run-up for De Lange as well, as he makes his way back to the top of his mark. And interestingly now, brings in the fielder at deep third, pushes out long on, so 4 fielders on the leg side now.
De Lange to Willie, winds himself up and gets enough on it to run it out to deep mid-wicket. This is McSweeney's highest score in the competition. He had a 53 earlier in the tournament, so it's past his previous best. This feels as if it's going inexorably the Steelbacks' way at the moment. De Lange to McSweeney, who doesn't really time that, but just pulls it away into the leg side. And Scott fields, and they'll take 1. You know, we've seen examples both in the field and with the bat today about why they've had such a good tournament.
Yeah, besides those 3 drops, which were 3 difficult chances, this Steelback side has been clinical in the way they've gone in the power play, containing the Gloucestershire openers to their operation in the middle overs with the ball.
De Lange to Willie, who thought about not going for the single there, but I think there must have been a pretty quick change of call. Jack Taylor did the fielding, but batsman got through again. Willie up to 27.
And to see the way their batters have come out, and actually McSweeney taking that responsibility at the top of the order alongside Vasconcelos. Even David Willey here, who's come in and found the pace of the surface incredibly quickly compared to Gloucestershire's batters.
De Lange to McSweeney again. That's forced very well, and that's one of the best shots of the night. Actually, that was hit on the up outside the off stump. Yes, but not that much room. And there's a big gap away through extra cover. Darawal's on the rope. He had ground to make up, but he couldn't haul it in. And De Lange has now also bowled 3 overs. It's 128 for 1, and it's a very consistent rate. They're only fractionally ahead of where Gloucestershire were at this point. But from somewhere, Gloucestershire have got to get probably both these 2 out and get some new batters in who might just take a little bit of time to get the measure of this pitch.
And at this stage as well, the Steelbacks had a myriad of options they could go to with the ball in hand. Scrimshaw coming in as their final bowling option, only ended up needing to bowl 2 overs in the end, whilst they had exhaustive options. Gloucestershire here feel quite restricted in where they can go to, so where do they go to? The captain. As he starts with a flat, shorter delivery, cut away to Darawal for a single, and he'll be hoping here that he can have one of those miracle overs, can remove the 2 set batters in McSweeney and Willie. Such a destructive pairing for the Steelbacks, as McSweeney on 61, strike rate just below 200. Uses the depth of the crease nicely there to whip the ball away towards deep mid-wicket for a single.
We know the short boundaries, the straight boundaries are short, and therefore there is the risk of bowling the spinner at the Ashley Down road end. That is true.
He's gone for the big shot, and fortunately from a Gloucestershire perspective, whilst he placed it nicely between the 2 fielders converging, the ball just plugged. And you can see where the line is across the outfield down towards our left, where the boundary has been for the last 2 weeks during the ICC T20 Women's World Cup. It would have gone for 6 on that occasion, but it might have gone for 6 now. That is big. Down the ground. You hear the slam into the pavilion as David Willey picks up his counterpart in the Gloucestershire team, captain on captain warfare, and in fact the ball's collided with the pavilion so much it's bounced back almost onto the pitch. Miles Hammond climbing over the white fencing below us. And just as Gloucestershire begin to piece together a few dot balls, then there's a well-timed boundary from the Steelbacks. This time short, flat, 6, and another huge hit from David Willey. The ball's gone right to the top of the temporary stands to our left. Yet again, enthusiastic stewards run to the back of the stand to try and recall that one. I think that's going to take a bit more of a search.
I thought that actually bounced on the back of the stand and went over, actually.
Well, I think because there's only half a stand there, it's probably gone through one of the many holes where it's not actually it's a bit of a safety risk, actually, you suspect, with the stewards running through.
Which is why there's a lot of tape up there at the moment to must prevent people from walking to the back of it. But no sign yet of the ball being returned. We may need the box to be brought out, but at the moment this feels like it's Northamptonshire are powering their way, their juggernaut towards an 8th straight win.
It's entirely slipping away from Gloucestershire here, and this delay, albeit short as the box of balls is brought out, will just give Gloucestershire either a moment here to really consider what's their strategy going forward. How do you win this game from here? It's looking difficult, but actually take this moment. It disrupts the momentum slightly for the Steelbacks. We've seen conversations so often with the additional drinks breaks, not only in the Football World Cup, but in the Women's T20 World Cup, and how those can be used tactically by sides just to regroup when you're on the back foot. And that's exactly what Gloucestershire need to do here. You can see the body language of the fielders, hands on hips, arms crossed. It's not giving the signs of a side who believes they can crawl their way back into this game. Because with consecutive sixes of Jack Taylor's last few deliveries, a new ball now in the captain's hands. He's gone for 16 in this over, still one ball remaining, 41 needed for the Steelbacks, as rocking back is Willie, slicing the ball towards deep point, and another 2-run. Again, you said it, that this is a side charging towards 8 wins on the trot, and they have looked a disciplined unit, whether it's been from their boundary striking or just executing the simple things well and running between the wickets.
So I don't know what Jack Taylor's injury is, but he's bowled 2 overs in the last 2 matches, i.e. 1 over at Taunton that cost 20 and an over tonight that's cost 17. And you wonder if somewhere in that is his body saying that the bowling at the moment is actually proving pretty difficult for him. He's trying to put himself out there to help, but he isn't. So is it better that he kind of concentrates on the other facets, which is the captaincy and the batting? Unsurprisingly, Daz Ahmed is back. 2 overs, 1 for 11 at the moment. And James Bracey standing up and worked away into the leg side by McSweeney for a single.
The fact the Steelbacks have almost caught up on this rate when chasing a score over 180 goes to show to me that there was a missed trick in taking Daz Ahmed out of the attack. Yes, there's elements to not wanting to keep a bowler on for too long in a spell because batters get used to them. But he'd only conceded the 11 runs, and it felt like a crucial captaincy moment to go, do we take this gamble? Do we keep him going with a spell which is working well? And I think at this stage, bringing him back into the attack, it just feels a little too late for Gloucestershire.
Armour to David Willey. Tries to use his feet, and he's got that way over Jack Taylor. 2 bounces for 4. Down to the shorter boundary at the Ashley Down Road end. And having, so far this season here at Bristol, won 3 out of 3, perhaps without really playing as well, certainly with the bat, as they would have anticipated tonight. A bigger score to defend, and yet the opposition have found a way to put themselves absolutely in the driving seat. And really and truly, as well, he gets another single squeeze behind square off Ahmed. Even as early as maybe the 3rd over, when they were 30 without loss, the openers looked as if they absolutely knew what the plan was and how they were going to execute it. And Gloucestershire haven't had an answer at the moment. Ahmed to McSweeney. You'll get one again up to long on. Darcy Short is up there. And yes, there are a lot of injuries, particularly within the bowling unit in this Gloucestershire team. And that's, in a sense, why as I did joke to someone the other day, perhaps the best policy is to bat and get a really big score. Now, tonight's score was by no means shabby, but it's proved to be a really good batting pitch, and they've needed more than 184. Willie goes down the ground off Ahmed this time. That's 6 more into the sight screen.
The Steelbacks here will want to get this done as soon as they can, really, at this stage. And when they've had that time out there in the middle now, they've got used to, as you say, what has looked like a good batting pitch. In the end, all
50 to David Willie, by the way. We shouldn't knock that. 24 balls is all it's taken.
They've just judged it incredibly well, the Steelbacks. And no, we keep banging on about it, but it's understandable how they've gone on this winning streak across this competition. Actually, impressively picked up where they left off in that 2 rounds of county championship break.
Ahmed to Willie, a little bit wider this time. That was his 5th 6 in this knock. And there's been the odd spell where Gloucestershire have got a few dots in, but there have been too many clearances of the rope, really, to give them any sort of chance. And now Northants, well, they've got the rate down with only 5 and over needed, with only 1 wicket down. They're absolutely cruising it. And you have to say that they have looked by some distance the most impressive team in the competition, and their record would absolutely back that up.
And it's a contrast for Gloucestershire, who had a brilliant start to the blast prior to those rounds of county championship, and now coming back with a side which looks different owing to those injuries. They won't want to go on a losing streak here, conversely. So getting through this game, a game which it looks like they're going to lose. As Williams is back in for his 3rd, starts with a full toss. Fired in by...
Always felt a big week this, with the team top of the table, 100% record tonight, and then Surrey, who are traditionally very strong, here on Saturday evening. And I know that's a cross-pool game, but Surrey could be a rival for a 2nd place finish in another group. So Gloucestershire would be keen to lower their colours.
Williams full outside the off stump, and a great bit of work there from Miles Hammond. Desperate times call for desperate bits of fielding, a full length outstretched dive to his right, his less dominant side. Keeps it down to 1. Mentioned Surrey in their game against Essex. Essex need 86 runs to win from 5.5 overs. They did get off to a bit of a flyer, but it's so hard to maintain that strike rate. Although the Steelbacks have shown how to do it this evening. 22 needed off 28. McSweeney and Willie out there will be thinking how fewer balls do they need to chase down this total, as that one's carved out to one of the 2 fielders on the offside. An opportunity here though for Williams to get his mind into that more deft bowling role. Of course, it's a situation against Gloucestershire, but if we see these injuries persist across the rest of this blast campaign, you mentioned how congested this calendar is for the final few rounds, then Williams maybe needed a few more times to come in and bowl some crucial overs at the end. But he's bowled a full toss, it's been picked up. Fielder tracking it backwards as it lands desperately over the boundary rope, keeping Scott teasingly in the game, thinking there was the opportunity for a catch, but in the end it's just another boundary to the Steelbacks, who continue to race along and chasing down this total of 185.
They'll be doing it in like 3 overs to spare at the way they're going at the minute, which is extraordinary.
Williams wide of the off stump, reaching for that one is Willie. Minimal foot movement. Squeezed out for a single. 14 needed. Do it in 3 balls if they wanted it. And if Williams, who's bowled 2 full tosses so far in this over, serves up another one, you fear that McSweeney, similarly to Willie, won't miss out.
But look at that caption. Willie has overtaken McSweeney now in terms of runs scored.
Remarkable strike rate from the Steelbacks captain. As McSweeney times this one nicely down the ground. We'll get a single to Hammond.
And it's been clean hitting, hasn't it? That's the crux of why Northamptonshire are in this position. They have ruthlessly put away anything loose, and they've actually put away quite a lot that hasn't been that loose. Just really clean striking of the ball, and there we are with 13 needed off the last 4 overs.
Willie's been striking at 178 this blast, and when you think that's 8 innings, 302 runs, he's averaging 50.
And again, so we now have 2 batters, both of whom have passed their best score so far in the tournament, having both already passed 50. So
what a contrast this is as well, though, to the Warwickshire game where we saw wickets crumbling, and now we've got a game where there's only been 3 wickets taken so far, and we're close to finishing out.
And 350 runs as well. Ahmed to hold his last over. James Bracey standing up, and I think most of the Gloucestershire supporters, if they haven't left, they've already resigned themselves to the fact that this Northants team is going to take some stopping in this group, and it might take some stopping in the tournament, because they're going to have a home draw almost certainly in the quarterfinals. You would think, from where they are, they may even be the top seeds, and they will have, after tonight, they'll have 32 points from 8 straight wins. Willie goes aerial once more, lofted away deep into the leg side, 6 more. It doesn't matter where the fielders are, if you hit the ball as cleanly as that. I know he's restricted now in terms of the formats that he plays, David Willie, but a bit like David Payne, you take a decision perhaps about how much the body will take, and if it only can take short form, but you can play like this, you feel it's absolutely justified. He's trying to drag that away into the legs. I got it off a bottom edge, and De Lange does the fielding.
Well, I still remember growing up watching that Northants side from around 2013 to 2016, where they picked up 2 victories in the Blast, came runners-up in 2015 as well, and they were just a side associating with nailing the T20 format, and they always played it so well. They had really powerful strikers at the top of the order.
Northants could do this with one blow now if they actually middled one, but McSweeney will just take a single out into the offside. Jack Taylor fields. The field is spread, but this is very much the last rites of things, and Northants have looked a very, very powerful unit tonight in every sense. Ahmed to Willie, can he finish it? Oh, he's sliced it straight up in the air, and James Bracey is going to take the catch. So Ahmed will get a second wicket, and Willie goes for 73, but he's got his team literally to the brink of victory, and there will not be a more muted celebration of a wicket for Gloucestershire anywhere in this tournament, other than for Ahmed himself, perhaps. From a personal level, good to get a wicket, but David Willie will get a good hand as he walks off, because he has struck the ball cleanly and ruthlessly tonight.
He has, and whilst this performance for Gloucestershire, it's easy to hear those alarm bells ringing and going, well, this is the complete reversal of the campaign they've had so far, these last 2 games, with that brilliant century against them by James Rue, and now this dominant performance by the Steelbacks. But they have come up against a fantastic individual performance, now a fantastic team performance. So I think, if anything, looking at the way the Steelbacks have operated this evening and taking from that learning points, Gloucestershire can adapt going forwards.
Safe Save has come in with 4 needed to win. and he tries to play a reverse down the leg side, which was a pretty ugly shot, but he doesn't get anything on it. And Daz Ahmed has finished his stint for the evening, and his figures will not be as bad as one or two of the others. 2 for 35 from his 4 overs, and his first 2 overs only cost 11, so he'll have learnt a bit tonight, no question about that. But it has not happened this evening for the Gloucestershire bowlers, and they've not found any way to calm down this Northants batting lineup. They only need 3. I think the call may be Vanessa's.
Williams has the honour of being appointed by his captain to bowl the over where Northants, well, they're likely to bring it home. He's making a few adjustments to his field. Fine leg goes back. A deep backward square, in fact, deep mid-wicket. Williams, low full toss, steered through the offside, only for a single. It'll bring McSweeney on strike, who, as you say, Ian, has been watching from the non-striker's end as David Willey caused utter destruction. But it only feels right that the Steelbacks opener, who's played a crucial knock in this seamless performance from the visitors, should have a chance to strike the winning runs here. A few changes being made to the field at this stage. It's about that discipline, the processes for the Gloucestershire players. For Williams, with 2 runs required, bowl short, wide, the ball's been lifted down towards the boundary, and that final display of placement power from McSweeney, who finishes on 72, really sums up that performance. A short, wide ball from Gloucestershire, put away with absolute ease, and the Steelbacks win by 8 wickets, and they stay unbeaten in this T20 blast. For Gloucestershire, their second loss on the trot since the resumption of this campaign. Few questions to be asked, but a performance they won't reflect on with too many fond memories.
No, it seems a while ago since David Malan walked off having made 91 on his Gloucestershire debut. That was the glue of the Gloucestershire innings, but as Melissa said, only 4 wickets taken in the whole match. I wonder if... Did Jack Taylor misjudge how good a pitch this was going to be? He said he wanted a bat because it was a used wicket, but in reality it played really, really well. And Gloucestershire 184 for 2, they were 87 for 1 at halfway. Lost away a little bit during the second part of the innings before a bit of an explosion at the end with some lusty blows from Miles Hammond. Milan 91 not out, having opened the innings with Darcy Short, who made 16. Liam Scott made a brisk 33, and Hammond, who struggled initially, 33 not out at the end. A wicket each for Sales and Harrison. Gloucestershire needed a decent start. They needed to get some early wickets, but the openers, McSweeney and Vasconcelos, put on 82 in just under 9 overs before Vasconcelos was caught by Bracey off Ahmed for 36. And then David Willey came out and played a captain's innings for his team. He made 73, accompanied McSweeney to the cusp of victory. McSweeney unbeaten with 72 at the end, and he and Zaid got Northants over the line. I'm no mathematician. That means Gloucestershire's net run rate takes a bit of a hit, having lost in the 18th over. There are 4 games to go, 2 this weekend, home to Surrey on Saturday evening and then away at Warwickshire on Sunday before they finish at Worcester, and then the home game against Glamorgan, which, if things tighten up, could be almost a shootout for a place in the knockout stages.
It will, and this is a Gloucestershire side who we've seen pull out some of their best performances when their back is up against the wall, but realistically you don't want to be progressing into those knockout stages having just squeezed your way in. You know, sometimes it brings out the best in sides to have that bit of added pressure, but I think the key thing will be, how do Gloucestershire get the balance of this side right with those changes to personnel they've had caused by injury, and role clarity which comes with that as well, because the best performances come when you know as a side what you're going out there to do. And for me, Northamptonshire knew what their plans were and continued to execute that. They got the basics right with the ball in hand, with the bat, and on reflection, as you say, I think there was runs left out there for Gloucestershire, and whether that could have come from better running between the wickets, maybe taking a few more risks with the fact that it was a better batting surface, as we found out, than expected. 4 wickets across both innings, and I think for the Steelbacks, a brilliant performance for them to reflect on.
Gloucestershire's bowling figures: 2 wickets to Daz Ahmed, 2 for 35 for him, but elsewhere it was pretty expensive. Will Williams 3.2 overs for 43, Scott 3 overs for 39, DeLanger 3 overs for 26, Darcy Short 1 over only cost 11, Van Buren 2 overs for 14, and Jack Taylor 1 over for 18. So important information for you going forward. Saturday's game is being televised, and therefore we will direct you to the BBC commentary, the audio commentary on Saturday evening. There will be no stream commentary per se, because the match is being televised on Sky. The stream will be back on Sunday for the match at Edgbaston. Remember, it's an evening game on Saturday, it's an afternoon game on Sunday, so Ed Seaborn and Mark Church will do the commentary for you on Saturday night. Thanks to Melissa for your company this evening. Great to have you along as ever, and enjoy the women's semi-final at the Oval tomorrow.
Thank you.
And congratulations to Northants, who today have proved why they have been such difficult opponents right across this central group throughout the group stages of the T20 Blast this season. They win here tonight at Bristol by 8 wickets. Thanks for your company, thanks for James on the cameras, and hope you've enjoyed what has been a bit of a run fest, even though most of it has been from the Steelbacks. From Bristol, from us all, goodbye.